call this planning board workshop into session. I'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so the first order of business will be to approve the minutes from last meeting. Is there any questions or comments on the minutes as they're typed?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion to approve the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Staying.
Yeah.
Point of order.
Yep.
Eric, you make that motion?
I did.
Yeah.
Vote him into,
Vote him in.
yes. All right, so first.
So I'll make the motion then,
Yeah.
to accept the minutes.
Okay.
Second.
Second, all right, and then all those in favor?
Aye.
Jane and Michael, and then everyone voted yes.
Yep. All right.
Jeff?
Oh, did you just appoint him? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
It is, I was going to throw out there that it's Tuesday, September 9th. Just at the beginning when you started the meeting, you didn't say the date, so I just thrown it in there.
Okay, Tuesday, September 9th, yes. Thank you. Any other corrections? Let me know.
Sorry.
All right, so do I need to,
No.
because it's a workshop, anything else that I need to?
No,
open that on?
just introduce it.
Okay.
Item.
All right, so the next agenda item is the Land and Water Conservation Chapter.
Take it. So yes, today here with us is Kyle Pimentel from the Assistant Executive Director at Stratford Regional Planning Commission. He worked primarily on this Land and Water Conservation Chapter. This chapter with the committee, Conservation Commission, Master Plan Subcommittee, and whatnot. And I'd say we're here to present to the planning board that chapter and the action items and goals thereof. Just kind of a little background on this chapter because it's a little different than the others and how they were developed. The Land and Water Conservation chapter is actually a merger of two different chapters. This is the open space plan, which was recently adopted last year. And then the 2020 water conservation chapter. So the idea was to consolidate these two chapters into one, and because they are intertwined in their purpose for the most part, and we thought it was a good opportunity to facilitate that consolidation. Like the other chapters, it follows the themes. Which are vibrancy, connectivity, accessibility, affordability, and resiliency, but through a land preservation and water preservation lens, as well as kind of passive use of those lands as well. So the idea is, for this chapter is how do you balance land uses with preservation? How do you balance recreation with providing space for passive preservation, also wildlife preservation. So, and then also how do you best use your water resources. So it's really a very holistic chapter. It tries to accomplish a lot through those lenses. And like the other chapters, it has those themes. And with those themes, I think we can just maybe start with, this is kind of the, right here, this, if you look up at the screen, what I just said, kind of the origin of this chapter. And then, these are the primary folks that help. So thank you, Conservation Commission, for helping guiding this chapter development. For the most part, that was the team that helped us move forward. And then further vetted by the Master Plan Subcommittee. Another part of this story is the outreach. We also did extensive outreach through 2 visioning sessions, a visioning week, surveying as well. And that really helped guide us to some of the recommendations and action items that you see in the implementation matrix later on. Incorporate survey responses. So the idea was just to make sure that we're aligning with the community in achieving these types of goals. So, and then is here are just some of the responses. So again, a lot of emphasis on the following: preservation of natural features, connectivity, improve environmental health, improve stormwater, increasing resiliency, ensuring a balance of wildlife preservation, and also with land development. So again, these themes being confirmed through those workshop processes. So with that kind of background, I'll kind of kick it over to Kyle to kind of help us go through just the themes, and then just going through the major points that we're trying to achieve through these themes throughout the chapter. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Thanks, Bart. So again, for those of you who I haven't met, my name is Kyle Pimentel. I'm the Assistant Director at SRPC. And Bart sort of did a really great job with outlining where this chapter sort of stemmed from. What I would add to this section here, in terms of, we'll start with the vision, is that we had the 2020 Water Resources chapter, which had gone through its own amount of outreach 5 years ago. And prior to that, it had been adopted in 2008 and 2001. And then with the open space plan, there was a bit of outreach that was done with that. So this chapter really benefited from maybe the most outreach, because it hit on those 2 chapters, and then we were lucky enough to be able to add some different questions that maybe we hadn't thought of in 2020 or even in 2024 as part of the open space chapter. And then that enabled us to sort of fine-tune some of the questions that we asked for this particular survey that we did, along with the workshops. And then we took the 2 documents and tried to pull out where there was overlap. And that's really where this vision was created, by taking the primary components of both chapters, combining them into one sort of cohesive vision that would encompass, what both of those chapters were really saying. This vision went through a number of different revisions, I guess. We had a number of different drafts that the ConsCom sort of played with and kind of fine-tuned the language. But really, this is what we tried to capture here, was 2 separate chapters, one with a focus on water resources and the other on land, and tried to sort of blend those 2 together. One of the things that we really did try and accomplish was that when reading this, we hope that folks don't see this as 2 sort of siloed documents that were slammed together. That I think that these 2, water and land, have a natural connection with each other. And we hope that, the way in which we wrote this, that it would seem like it's a natural blending of the 2. So I'm not going to sort of read through all of this. You have this document. If there's some wordsmithing that needs to be done, obviously, getting those edits to Bart and then over to us. But I wanted to just sort of reiterate how the vision was constructed and what we went through to sort of get to where this is. So I think in talking with Bart, we decided to sort of use the presentation along with the master plan chapter that you already have, and kind of just use these as we kind of go through it. So I'll pause here to see if there's just any overarching questions or feedback on the vision.
Nope, doesn't seem so.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Love that. The next section is the executive summary, and it really just, again, just kind of highlights what Bart and I have already talked about of what we did, the public input that was obtained, the open space and merging of the open space and water resources chapter, a little bit of history about both of those, what they seek to accomplish, how the town is seeking to balance the need for development with also conservation efforts. One thing that is probably a little bit stronger in this version that was in the 2020 version, at least on the water resources side, is the state, Newmarket, the surrounding region, there is a tremendous focus on housing and the need for housing. And I think that what has come along with that, especially for some of the smaller communities, is in trying to encourage housing, that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to abort all of your efforts to conserve land or keep things rural in certain parts of town. The protection and support of wildlife, those things can still remain at the core values of what Newmarket and other communities are, and still encourage other types of development, whether it's housing or commercial or whatever. And so I think one of the things that we tried to do is make an effort to really talk about those types of strategic land uses that you can think about to encourage development in the right places where you've got infrastructure and sort of preserving other natural areas, preserving riparian areas, those types of things, but while also encouraging outdoor activity. So again, it's trying, one of the big things that we heard a lot in the survey was balance. That you can't just be on one side or the other. You've got to be able to mix these two things together. So that's really, a summary of the chapter as it stands now. Again, both these chapters were relatively long, so to get this down to whatever it is now, 16 pages, there were a lot of things, obviously, that were left out, but we feel as though that the overarching components carried over. So any sort of comments or questions on the executive summary?
I'll just add to that.
Sure.
In the appendices of this chapter are both the open space
Yeah.
plan and the former chapter, water resource chapter. So again, this is as Kyle said, a nice blending of those two chapters and coming together to try to achieve the goals of both plans. And then if you wanted more details, all that work, you can go to the appendices and check it out. So it's not lost.
So is that open space plan now part of the master plan writ large, and if we revisit that, it's part of the master plan process, or is that still kind of a standalone thing like it had been in the past?
We're merging it with the master plan.
Okay.
So right now it's kind of on its own. Now it's coming into the fray.
Okay. And as far as this chapter, it incorporated the open space plan kind of as is, since it was just updated in 2024. We haven't really revisited that as part of integrating this chapter.
Yep, we already updated it. So I think the last open space was 2008 or 2003. Can't
Something
remember.
like that.
So we just updated that. That stands alone right now. We're bringing it into the master plan, and but we want to preserve that document how it was originally drafted, and then we put that in the appendices.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood.
So I'm sorry, quick question. When you had talked earlier, and make sure I understood you correctly, you did the blending together, and there were some things that we just didn't carry over. Can you give me an example of something that maybe we should have carried over?
Well, so just to sort of clarify that, it's not lost. It's still in the primary document that will be in the appendices. But I'll give you an example on the water resources side. It broke down things. There was a whole chapter on floodplains. There was a whole chapter on aquifers. There was a whole chapter on rivers, brooks, streams, lakes, ponds, wetlands. So those things weren't all carried forward. What was carried forward was the overarching piece of these types of values or economic or ecological resources should be protected, and then the recommendations were sort of brought forth. But the write-ups on statistics of how many square foot or acres of wetlands there are, all of that didn't carry over into this 16 pages. So that's what I meant by things not making it forward, was the level of detail and the breakdown of of the town's water resources didn't make it into this sort of forward-facing document, but it's still included entirely in the appendix.
Okay.
So that's what I sort of meant by that,
Okay.
is that there was I mean, that chapter was 60 pages long or so, and there's a ton of really good data behind it. So a lot of that is not like a lot of the statistics is not being brought forth into this portion of the document.
So would you say like under the executive summary, third paragraph, second line, essential habitats, that's kind of what you're saying, correct? Okay.
Right,
I just
so
wanted to
think-
tie it together.
Right, exactly. So things like when we say, enhancing recreational opportunities, parks, green spaces, there was probably 5 pages in your prior document, again, the one that still exists, that go through all of those, listing them out in much more detail. So this was an exercise in trying to summarize the primary components of that and carry that forward. So a reader, just a general, resident could pick this up and get the big picture.
Picture, okay, thank you.
That's a question that I think I remember from our discussions. Will this in the future completely replace those plans? So will the town revisit the literal open space plan in 5 years, or will it abandon that level of detail in the future and only stick to the broader overview?
Doesn't have to, it can stick to the same format if it wants to. So that's for future folks to decide. It doesn't have to. It could be different, or it could stay the same where you update the open space plan. And then you revisit the summary basically of the chapter, and that gets updated as well.
So that'd just be part of the master plan development process of the committees as they're looking to revive those chapters? and
Right.
those-
It would be a larger undertaking, but I can see your point where, both chapters were, a lot of dedicated time, a lot of detail, so, yeah.
If that granularity was valuable,
Mhm.
you'd think you'd want to continue in the future.
Yeah, I think you still could.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying,
Yeah.
I'm agreeing, but I think that it's,
I guess if it's gonna live here now, that would just be part of the committees to identify if there's a need to go back and maybe get more data or talk to somebody again to update something.
Yeah, I think the way to think about it is you got your database, which are the appendices, then you got your interface, which is this chapter. So you update in the database, which will then update the interface, so it's easier to read. But if you want to get into details, you can go back there. So
yeah, I'm not opposed to this
Yeah.
format and having that as an appendice. I think it's really good to boil it down for people and kind of consolidate it and be like, here's an overview of the goals of that open space plan. I'm just thinking like 5 or 10 years down the road. Is it going to be referenced again, lost, or updated along with the master plan, or perhaps updated before the master plan gets updated?
maybe it's
again?
updated before, yeah.
Right, and then-
And it's an opportunity too, like if there's grants or whatnot. So I see value in updating them individually and then adjusting accordingly as well.
The other thing too, because we sort of talked about that internally, as we were working through this, would be like, what happens long-term to some of these other pieces? And, I think that there are, for future committees or, however the town wants to kind of construct this into the future, there are going to be parts of those plans that are likely not going to change over time. So things like the linear feet of the Lamprey River is not going to necessarily change, but a good example of the town going through what you just did with your prime wetlands mapping with Mark West, right? And any subsequent changes to your zoning ordinance or something dealing with wetlands, like that could be something that you might want to look at again and be like, all right, well, certain parts of this chapter, need to be brought forward, but there's a lot of it that is probably going to stay the same. It's almost kind of like a natural resources inventory. So you can kind of pick and choose which parts of it. You may not necessarily have to say, we need to update the entire thing. There are components that are prioritized.
Yeah, there are components, I'm sure, that I don't remember, but that we didn't change from the previous one.
Right,
You bring
right,
it
exactly.
forward
They
and
got
you
carried
say-
over from 2008.
Yeah, well, then the number of acres developed will change, but the number of acres is clearly not going to change.
Right,
I mean, so,
right.
So, yeah.
What was the impetus for updating it in 2024? Do you remember? Was that something like this board or the town or?
It was the Concom. I
It was a
thought.
grant opportunity, and I think it was 20-year-old plan, the open space,
Okay.
yeah.
On a related question, would you say that the goals and that come later, the goals and recommendations, kind of incorporate some of that additional details that are in the open space and water resource chapter?
It's a good question. So this chapter's implementation matrix is a little bit different than some of the others where the other chapters were generating newer recommendations. This one just carried, because the open space plan was in 2024, we didn't feel as though that there was a real need to come up with new recommendations, though every single one of those got carried forward. We did go through an exercise for the recommendations that were in the Water Resources chapter in 2020 of ones that had already been accomplished, but the rest are all carried forward. So it's a longer list in terms of the implementation matrix. There's, let's see, there's a lot, over 70 actions between the two plans. So some of these probably, need to be fine-tuned, but we didn't really trim out anything other than if it had already been completed, which there was really nothing completed for the open space plan. It was just the water resources chapter over 5 years that we took a look at.
So you're saying the recommendations that were in the open space and the water resource was also brought in?
Yeah, so they were all brought into this, and then we had to kind of,
Calibrate.
yes, we had to sort of calibrate them to fit into the 5 themes. We didn't have the benefit of the themes, like the other chapters knew before writing what the themes were going to be. We had to take stuff that was already done and fit it into the 5 themes. So it was a little backwards, just because of the timing of it. But it was a useful exercise to try and tie them to the overarching themes and goals that were set. So, yeah, this, in terms of the actions, and everything was flip-flopped on how we would have done all of the other ones. The actions were already completed. We had to take those and fit them into the goals and themes, whereas it worked the other way around with all the other chapters.
Gotcha.
So it was really more or less just it was more of an organizational exercise than anything else. And we did reaffirm, I think there were maybe a handful, maybe like 4 or 5, that got tweaked based off of the survey results. But for the majority, they remained consistent with what they were.
So are there any other questions, comments on the executive summary? Since we're kind of getting into the goals and themes next.
Yeah, we can jump into, if there aren't any comments, we can jump into the vibrancy goals. Because I think, Bart, correct me if I'm wrong, but the master plan themes and goals on page 4, is that being
Yeah, that's being
taken off?
removed from each chapter, and we're just going to have it in one spot.
Okay.
In more of the preface.
You can let Ellen know. I'll find a spot for that photo so we don't lose it. Great. So getting into the vibrancy section, you've got the goals up here already. Again, the sort of big takeaway on this one is, encouraging outdoor recreation, allowing for folks to have access to the town's water resources. The survey results, as part of this, people really did talk about wanting to have access to parks, recreational areas, conservation lands. There are a lot of people that had answered those questions, that they use those weekly. So that really sort of underscored the importance of making sure that folks have access. And so that's really kind of what this section is looking to do, is kind of focus in on that, enhancing those open spaces, encouraging participation, to make sure that, that it's inclusive, it's connected, and then other ways to sort of improve that. So investments in signage, wayfinding efforts, infrastructure improvements that might make things more accessible. That's really kind of what this section is kind of dealing with.
Questions?
Any questions? No. The next section is connectivity.
Go ahead.
Did you say that, like, the goals after each section is being removed, or just the,
No, just the beginning, the one that kind of explains what they are.
Okay.
That was just being removed, not within each theme.
Okay.
Those are remaining.
I guess we'll say with the pictures, the legend, I don't know if there's a way to make that pop or clearer. It does kind of get muted in the pictures. I think it's just part of that kind of fade away background a bit, but.
Yeah, we can try to export that with a higher resolution or make the legend a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I think if it's just not in that faded kind of corner color there, if it's lightened up a bit, if you can.
Yeah, we should be able to make that a little bit more readable.
I'd say overall the pictures are kind of helpful to see that layer of what the goal or the theme is getting at. I guess, yeah, one more thing now that I remember. In the highest ranked habitats, is that defined anywhere that people can kind of understand what highest ranked means?
Yeah, so that's the Wildlife Action Plan.
I think that would be good to put in part of the legend or something.
Yeah, I think
Like the source,
Yeah.
yeah, data source.
it sounds important,
Well,
but
it is in the legend.
without the context of like kind of what that means.
It,
is
it
in
actually
the
may be in the legend, but
Is
it
it?
might be small.
It's blurred.
Yeah, just but like actually, what does a highest ranked habitat actually mean? I know like in the legend it defines what's highest ranked in New Hampshire versus in a biological area region. I can infer it's marshland just judging by where it's colored, but or wetlands. Just something. It doesn't have to be just something that the general audience can kind of understand what the intent of that mapping is showing.
Yep. The other thing that we to just keep in mind too is that there's going to be a large focus of the platform that this is on to make it dynamic where people, and so I think there'll be opportunities where text could link to things, and so this could be an opportunity to link to the Wildlife Action Plan website at Fish and Game, where people could go and look at all the different maps. They can look at the data. They can. I mean, you could explore that whole website if you wanted to, but we can certainly add something to make it a little bit more clear of what these are.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense, and that these days linking out to the documents that have more detail or interactive, I think, is the way to go.
But we can add something to just make that a little bit more clear of what
Yeah,
that,
even if
what
it's
that
just a
means.
caption or some kind of note underneath.
Sure. Okay. Any other comments on the vibrancy section? Okay, then we can move on to the sort of the connectivity. This is pretty straightforward, but again, I think the overarching piece here is making sure that folks can get, or the community in general can get from one place to another. So residential areas, job centers, schools, connecting those with recreational areas. So that could be through a good sidewalk network, trails, ensuring that wildlife corridors or unfragmented forest blocks are preserved. So this is really kind of thinking about linking people from their daily lives and getting them out into the environment and not having to drive, 30 minutes to get there, and figuring out maybe ways to do that and improve what is already existing. There was a lot of discussion with the Conservation Commission and others about just wayfinding and signage and things like that are relatively low-cost initiatives to guide people into places that make the most sense, keeping them out of ecologically sensitive areas, but really trying to sort of foster this appreciation for what Newmarket has in terms of its natural resources. So that's kind of where this section goes. The map on the next page kind of shows where there's existing conservation lands that already exist, where there's parking, where some of those conservation lands have parking and trails on them already, and then other, trail networks that exist. So that's in a nutshell kind of what this section is seeking to accomplish.
I think some of the other chapters have highlighted or taken credit for examples of some of these goals already being started and how they can be expanded upon. Are there any actual, whether it be the aquatic or wildlife corridor examples that the town has that we can potentially highlight in here as good examples of what we want to try to make more of? I'm not super familiar with it, so I'm not sure.
One that comes to mind is Tuttle Swamp.
Okay.
At least
Is
for
that the
aquatic.
turtle crossing one?
Not that one. It's close by, but it's off Ash Swamp Road as you're going towards Wally Falls. It's kind of near the transfer station.
Okay.
That's wildlife corridor, I would say. It's marshland, but I don't know, Jeff. I think you'd.
I was gonna say, I think that's part of the idea of the trails and trailheads map, in that it shows all the green spaces that are either open space for subdivisions or conservation properties, and you can kind of see the connectivity of those on that map. It's not a specific wildlife corridor map. I don't remember us reviewing a wildlife corridor map as part of all the different stuff that we saw.
Yeah, so is this more of just conceptually what you're trying to help achieve versus a designated, this is a defined, kind of like a highway is a defined road?
It's kind of taken like that, the other map right here, and then trying to find those high value for wildlife preservation, and try to work towards preservation of those areas.
That is what I meant.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it does kind of show, you can kind of highlight the surface water on here anyway. You can see where it crosses roads. And, I will say that I think that there's an extra word in the opening paragraph here. I think that the last word isn't supposed to be there, and it's supposed to be plural streams, right?
Sorry.
What page?
So on the connectivity on goal.
Page 9.
Page 6. So the last sentence, the end of it, we're talking about maintains connectivity across undeveloped lands for nature via wildlife corridors, unfragmented forest blocks, rivers, and streams. Because we're not talking about road crossings, river crossings.
We want the streams to be
Talking about
unhindered,
streams,
not the
not stream
crossings be
crossings.
unhindered.
Okay.
I think, right? Because stream crossings are for people and the rest of it's for wildlife.
I guess the way that I would read that, because I think on page 7, it talks a little bit more about aquatic connectivity, and so I would think a stream crossing would be ensuring a culvert was appropriately sized for aquatic crossings underneath it. The one that comes to mind is Lumberland Creek. So I guess that's how I would think it, but I think if we wanted to just change it to forest
Great.
blocks, rivers, and streams, I think that makes
I read
sense
it the
too.
other way, as it would be a road crossing for the wildlife, and not a stream crossing for the wildlife.
Oh.
Because it says for wildlife, so wildlife doesn't need to cross the stream. The stream needs to cross.
For fish and wildlife or aquatic.
So maybe we,
The stream needs to
Yeah.
cross the
Yeah.
road via, I don't know, I read.
That's aquatic animals, right?
Yeah, they don't cross the stream, it's stream crossing.
Yeah, you want the
Because it
stream
says
crossings to exist.
It says via wildlife corridors, lands for nature, undeveloped lands for nature. Stream crossings seems, maybe I could be wrong, but
No, I agree with you.
I read it inside out.
I think people have kind of merged. On that side, it says aquatic crossings, or stream crossings to support biodiversity use.
But the way it's in the context of the sentence, though, as well.
Yeah, so you're maintaining connectivity between undeveloped lands for nature via what? Wildlife corridors, unfragmented forest blocks, via rivers and stream crossings.
Yeah, I see what you're saying now. I think because of the context of the sentence, when you're talking about connectivity across undeveloped lands, stream crossings is probably the wrong way to say it. So,
It's like rivers, you don't say
yeah,
river crossings.
yeah.
You say river.
Yeah, so I guess it's either via crossings for rivers and streams or via unhindered rivers and streams.
Riparian preservation.
There you go. I did read it about 5 times before I said anything, because I was like, I don't know if it feels inside it. And I probably read it at the Concom a dozen times.
Yeah, so are there any other
Ask him.
comments, questions on connectivity? All right. Accessibility.
So, yeah, we sort of combined these two. It's separate in the chapter, but on the purposes up here, we just combined them into affordable and accessibility. There's a little bit of overlap between accessibility and some of the other things that are already talked about in connectivity and vibrancy. But again, here, kind of thinking about providing recreational and open spaces, parks, conservation land, waterways. You want these to be inclusive, welcoming, allowing for all people to be able to access them. And so, again, it kind of just looks into more detail about ensuring that there's access to these recreational opportunities, getting there safely, ensuring that things are designed in a certain way to allow for all abilities. There are already ADA standards that most communities have to comply with, but it just ensuring that the community's policies are taking that into consideration when sort of improving infrastructure around some of these areas. So there's a lot of focus on that. Improving some of the public waterways and natural areas. There's been a lot of discussion with the Riverfront Committee on Shanda Park and the Lamprey River and Moonlight Brook. There's a lot that has already been discussed about improvements that need to be made in some of those areas, whether it's stormwater or flooding or otherwise. So I think that's all kind of captured in this. The one other piece that I think the CONSCOM made a point to, because I don't think this was in the first or maybe even the second draft, was ensuring drinking water as under the umbrella of accessibility, and to ensure that abundant drinking water is an essential benefit to the community. So, ensuring that erosion, pollution, stormwater runoff, all of those things getting into the waterways, into groundwater recharge areas, are all being looked at to ensure that the protection of long-term and sustainable drinking water is something that is taken into consideration. So that was something that I believe was largely driven by the Conservation Commission to ensure that drinking water was brought forward.
Is this different than the actual plan, though? Or is it changed? I didn't know if that's a new version of what we see, or if it's...
Nope.
Because they're separate. On the one that I have.
For the presentation, we
Oh,
just
okay,
we
okay,
just
yeah,
combined.
that's what I was asking for the
There were
presentation.
3 accessibility goals and 3 affordability goals, so we just put it onto one slide. That's
Okay,
all.
that's fair.
Any other questions, comments? I guess that also includes affordability. I know we're talking
Yeah,
about
I guess I'll
accessibility,
just
but-
touch upon. I didn't touch upon affordability yet, but this was This was probably the most in-depth discussion that we had with the Conservation Commission, I think, was the affordability piece of what does that mean on both a conservation side and a development side in terms of balancing those two needs to ensure within the context of the growing housing. I remember, Jeff, we talked about this for a while.
Yeah,
You know,
I was gonna bring it
and-
up more. I pressed on this hard because I didn't understand like that affordability.
Yeah,
Like,
it's-
how that applies to conservation, if it's
Yeah, it was,
value.
I mean, this, we kind of, we had a lengthy discussion about trying to come up with language that made sense about this, of trying to balance these two uses, and to try and, put something in here that recognizes that, there are things that need to be put in place that integrates both conservation and housing and economic development. And so, one of the things that we discussed in this section is, encouraging mixed-use zoning, conservation-minded approaches, sustainable practices, ensuring that there's long-term affordability for people to be able to live here, while also preserving the town's character. I think that was what we tried to accomplish is that sort of sentiment, is that by prioritizing those land use practices, that there's going to be a natural environmental and economic benefit to that. So I think that's where we sort of landed on this, but this went through probably the most iterations out of this entire chapter was this section. I think we spent the most time on this one.
So is affordability in the greater context of the region by just allowing more housing to occur, or, 'cause to me, it's like if you're preserving land that's kind of at odds, which is probably part of the discussion you guys had, and I won't totally bring it up.
Discussion.
Because I think that in general, yeah, by allowing housing to be created, you're generally going to at least keep prices somewhat lower or not from increasing because of the demand. But yeah,
Also, it's like
They
if
kind of
you-
work against each other, or
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Once, so to speak, this less land might become more valuable, harder to conserve,
yeah,
right? And vice versa, the more you conserve, harder to develop because the land's more valuable.
well, yeah.
And keep prices down. So
If
it's
you
like
develop the land, it's not available to conserve.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Or it's more valuable.
Development though.
Yeah.
You can have zoning that allows, like open space developments where you get both.
Yeah, is that kind of what you guys were envisioning when you're writing this? Is more of like or we're going to set aside a big chunk of land? Is the intent, I guess, obviously, of this is you're not going to just set aside a big chunk of land and then build a bunch of stuff here, but kind of taking it more cohesively together. What are you conserving on the land you're developing?
Yeah, I think it's just the most 10,000-foot view approach is like you have all these things that you're trying to provide for living accommodations, access to open space, which means more recreation opportunity, which means better public health. It means less trips to the hospital, or your better health outcomes. So the idea is to and it's the key piece is that open space.
Yeah.
So having that, and then so that's kind of where we're thinking.
Okay, yeah, it's
towards.
just another layer to consider as you're
Yeah.
developing the land, not just access
Right.
and other stuff, but it's
free opportunity, let's say, not cost prohibitive, opportunities to, recreate, and stuff, so.
Okay.
Would it be fair to say, kind of the stuff that you were talking about is, you're going to read this, some people are going to see it as the glass is half empty, some of it are going to see as the glass is half full. They're going to see opportunities for development, they're going to see opportunities for conservation. I think that's what you're saying, correct?
Yeah, I think it's more like, where do you want the development to occur? Where do you do not? Where can it be really close together and coexist? Between open space and, development.
Well, what type of development?
And
Well,
what type of
that was my
development.
next
So, yeah.
point.
So that's,
2-acre developments of 3-acre lots is
Yeah.
not good environmentally.
so it's just more guiding the town to consider these things as they make policy changes, zoning changes.
Yeah, and obviously it's a master plan as in, like you said, it's kind of helping you guide your thought process through it. as you should come
Eric, can
through.
you elaborate on what you just said about, a lot size is not good environmentally?
Well, if you had a 100-acre piece of land and you,
Yeah.
well, look at the golf course. I mean,
Yep.
that's the perfect example, right? That was 120 acres, something like that. And 30 years ago, that would have been nothing but houses, just 2-acre lots and houses. Instead, with an open space, they were able to conserve the golf course.
Right.
Those type of developments where you get housing, but you also get some conservation,
Thank you.
which I think everybody's heading more towards that,
Right.
which I think is a wise way to go.
In preserving all these resources, a counter argument, it also increases the property value and the desirability of the community. So the cost of land may go higher, but well-being and healthy, lifestyle is also value added to that.
Yeah, and I think, the town can only do so much, I think, and then also there could be other policy changes that can help, reduce, the cost of living with that, so, but I think having the general thought of having, keeping all these things together and, recognizing them, is half the battle, so it's always present. So we know we still want attainable housing accommodations. We want preservation. We want access to open space, trails, whatnot. So yeah, it is a balancing act and hard to control for everything. But I think it's just where do you want to go?
I think those I think those work in concert with the rest of the chapter. Like the idea is that you can look at affordability and accessibility and then look at the earlier portions of the chapter that kind of get into wildlife corridors and how do you balance the affordability and accessibility around a wildlife corridor in zoning and whatnot.
And I think at the end of the day, what this chapter does, it allows us to think that way. It allows us to think how everything's connected and how there's a lot of value in different aspects of that. So how do you balance it?
The other thing that I would add too is I think that the paragraph, which I noticed that there's a typo that I'll fix, but the first paragraph on page 10 at the top, I think is pretty interesting. That there are some things talked about here about different ways to think about growing an economy, and it doesn't necessarily have to revolve around a large commercial tax base or a bunch of houses. It could be things like ecotourism initiatives that create jobs, that attract visitors, supporting local food production, farm stands, community gardens. Those are ways that you could strengthen a local economy where you don't necessarily need a giant commercial tax base. So I thought that was like a really interesting way to kind of think about the economic side through the lens of sort of environmental protection. So I think, to me, when I read through this a lot, and there are things that can be applied to other municipalities for sure, I read that paragraph and I feel like that is like a super Newmarket paragraph right there. Like, I don't know if I've ever really seen something like that in another municipality that thinks about or specifically kind of talks about how they want to grow their economy in a way like this. This I think is really interesting. So
It goes back to what Eric said about the golf course.
right.
I would say like Vernon Family Farms and Newfields, they're economic engines that are on conservation
Right.
property that's why they're accepted
Yeah,
by the
fun.
community as a
It funds
revenue
lawyers,
source.
right?
Yeah, it funds lawyers. Yeah, that one does, but I mean, there are opportunities similar in Newmarket.
Absolutely.
I could say. They had the wedding venue there at the, is that still there? At the golf course, the barn.
Yeah, they still have it there, yeah.
They have it.
So moving on to the last one, because we've got about 10 minutes left. The last one is the resilience category. There was a lot of discussion on this section about working collaboratively with sort of regional partners, neighboring communities, so, resiliency in the terms of, in thinking about, changing climate, Newmarket's not alone in that. Things with sea level rise and increased precipitation rates, that's something that's a sort of universal challenge with municipalities that are in the region, especially communities that are on the coast. So kind of in thinking about how to partner where it makes sense, maintaining healthy ecosystems, protecting air and water quality, these are all sort of shared challenges of those changing environmental conditions that, again, is not necessarily unique to Farmington, but things to be sort of thinking about and trying to incorporate. What's that?
Newmarket.
What did I say?
You said Farmington.
Farmington.
Yeah, I know. It's
I'm the planning director in Farmington, so.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
I say Farmington probably about 100 times a day. So in Newmarket. So that's really kind of what this section it focuses in on. It pulls out things about preserving wetlands for floodplain storage and threats to future drinking water supplies, things like prolonged periods of drought, increased demand, emerging contaminants, things like PFAS have become a larger issue in the last decade or so. Newmarket is rising groundwater levels in terms of saltwater intrusion is a sort of emerging issue. Moody Point is a great example of that, of tying into the municipal water system because of high salinity rates there. So that's kind of what this section is looking at, and just sort of thinking about what climate strategies need to be incorporated. Again, water supply, water infrastructure, increased flooding, sea level rise. Those seem to all be kind of captured in this particular section.
Awesome. Any questions, comments on that?
As a general question on the goals and the implementation piece of this, I mean, this is up to the planning board, right, to be implementing these things?
Not necessarily. So the idea is so there's another part of this table that goes like out here. It will have a lot more columns, variables about who's the lead to achieve said action, or to achieve said goal, a timeline, cost, grant, other funding opportunities. That's more of the back end side, and then the public interfacing side would be more of this, what you see here.
Bill, there was a discussion at the Charter Commission that I went to a month or so ago.
I saw that.
And there was a lot of discussion about, priorities, and most of everything in the master plan depends on funding. So it really depends on the town government, not necessarily the boards. It needs to be a priority for someone who makes financial decisions.
And incorporated in the CIP,
Yep.
things like that.
Yep.
Yeah, I think some of the committees too will have a hand in identifying the new ways and best executing that, potentially, but ultimately be the town reps, ones that are actually.
Just adopting a roadside Japanese knotweed control plan. I mean, that's just dollars, right? That's just.
Well, everything is dollars.
Well, I mean, it's not any board or anything, it's just giving Rick.
It's a town.
Yeah.
No, it's administration. People who are managing the money need to, some of the stuff if it's gonna get done, it's gotta be a priority for them.
Right.
There's obviously some stuff that flavors kind of like zoning and approval of different developments that will come kind of through us, which I feel like we've already kind of used this lens anyways, especially like the prime wetlands have come up, I think, twice in the past couple meetings. Properties impacted on that, so.
Isn't it, I know in the past when we've talked about zoning, we've looked, the goal is to meet the goal, the idea is to meet the goals of the master plan whenever we change zoning, right? So we should look at the document and use it to help develop.
Yeah, there's a lot of good action items.
Yeah, I agree. These detailed action items are the best I've seen of all the plans. I mean, you can actually imagine, you could actually map out things that are being done. A lot of them are very, we're gonna love our mother and we're gonna eat apple pie and stuff. Right? I mean,
No, but it is, a lot of it has been word salads, that's it.
yeah, this is, there's a lot of very detailed things in here that are, you could measure. Right?
A lot of it isn't expensive either.
But probably because these are from more recent plans, like the open space, which is 2024, so that had, and the water resources was a little too far behind that.
2020.
Yeah.
2020.
So it may reflect some of the more detailed action plan.
Or maybe this field just lends itself to more concrete things. I'm not sure.
I know we are running up against our clock, so is there any other questions before we wrap up?
I think just next steps, the review, the implementation, and any comments you have on the chapter itself. Just if you have any, just send it over to me so we can incorporate it into the next revision.
Okay. And was
I
there?
have just one more.
Yeah.
This is getting into the details, but I noticed one under resiliency, update the town's plan on maps and associated GIS layers, which I know we've done, but we haven't finished.
Yep.
Were we gonna have a discussion, are we gonna have a presentation, is that still coming?
Next month.
Next month, okay.
Yeah, Mark West is coming in for the presentation.
And I think we need to have a bigger discussion. I mean, it feels like that update thing was more about looking at existing prime wetlands and seeing if the boundaries have changed a little bit. And I don't know if it looked at, our other wetlands should be also considered.
Yeah, it did not. Yeah.
So,
It's just, yeah, sorry.
well, so I feel like that's missing, that other piece, like we didn't look at others, whether they also would qualify or, and, just so we don't lose that and say, well, it's done, the plan's done, let's do it another 5 years. We may need to think about that piece of it. Should we have looked at other places in town, I don't know, specifically the Bay wetlands?
I think that
We
could
can
be
ask Mark
amended.
that.
Yeah, you can ask Mark that, and then I think when we revisit this, you can add as a goal what you just said, express, propose it, and say, it's not just updating what our prime wetlands as they exist today, it's identifying new ones. Are there any new ones? And incorporating those. Could be, so.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what Mark says about that. I'm curious if they hold you to the previous definition they were established under. It's like that they were established under one definition, those definitions have changed. When they did the update, they have to modify them based on the new definitions, and if not, if we were to reassess them with some of the ones that are designated, not even qualify anymore. Or, I'm kind of curious, I don't think we asked Mark that question, I don't remember
So,
asking.
no, but ask them next month.
Yeah, it's good.
So do we need to vote on any of this, or it's all going to get lumped into the master plan?
Yeah,
again?
but when we have our public hearing.
Okay. Understood. So last order of business is adjourning the workshop.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, no problem.
Is that a motion?
Motion
Sort of
adjourned.
thing?
Yeah.
Yep. Anyway, motion.
They make a motion, we adjourn.
Yeah.
Second.
Yeah.
That is a classic.
You can't.
Oh, I can't.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Is that-
Second, all
is
right.
I feel like
Workshop is adjourned.
I've seen that like
6:59,
every
Tuesday.
Newmarket hazard mitigation plan. Like I have that on my computer.
5
Well-
minute, do people?
right.
Yep. All right, we'll begin this session of the planning board on Tuesday, September 9th at 7:08 PM. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. So, vote both of these two in.
Just one.
Just one?
Yeah, who wants to be?
Okay.
Bill?
All right, so that'd be, so it's appointing Bill to be a voting member?
Yep. For Val.
For Val, okay. And that's it, I'm voting, just appointing?
Yeah.
Sweet. First time, all right. So next item on the agenda is public comments for issues or items not related to anything on the agenda. Public comment is open, there are no public comment is closed. Next item is review and approval of the minutes from last meeting on August 12th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes, yes, you can vote on the minutes.
Well, you can abstain if
Did you look at the minutes?
Actually, I did, yes.
Perfect.
You're fine, you can do it.
I voted aye, I wasn't there, so. If it makes you feel better. I did read them though. All right.
The point I think is that, like, after it's seconded, we should ask if there's any further discussion. In case anybody had any comments to
Yes.
amend it. I wasn't sure if there.
Nope.
Were there
Good point, Jeff.
any comments that people would like to revisit?
I just noticed on line 91, there's no space between regulations and would at the very beginning of that line.
Which
line
number
number?
line?
91.
Yeah.
91?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Definitely get that space added. All right. So,
So I think it's just a motion to amend the minutes as stated.
okay.
Here.
So yeah, motion, is there a motion to amend the minutes as stated?
So,
Is there a second?
Second.
Awesome. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Getting the hang of it. All right, next item is our regular business. So topic A is discussion relative to reviewing proposed site plan and subdivision amendments.
Okay, so here we are. So in front of you have amendments to both Appendix A and Appendix B. Appendix A being subdivision, B being site plans. The primary purpose of these amendments, twofold. One is to, or threefold, I should say. One is to establish a technical review committee. That's the one of the main goals. The other is to clean up some procedural, some standards that have been plaguing the board for a while, like the size of site plans, who's going to sign the site plans after approval, and then the third main change is to applicability. I want to pause there for a second. I made some potentially, I won't say drastic, but some substantial changes on when what doesn't require site plan review, when does it require a minor, and when does it require a major. These are kind of going the way of, I think, how we're approaching zoning right now as a community is, to that, so I just wanted to take this opportunity to propose some amendments to the planning board to see if, these are on base, are these aligned with, the board's goals, the goals vision, what do you all want to review, what are those thresholds? So I really put together some language there to have a discussion, to see, are these thresholds right? Do they need to be recalibrated? If so, what those are.
So you're talking about an appendix B, the site plan? Page
Yeah, we
4
can
and
start
5?
with, yes, site plans. So I guess what we could do, and I'm open to suggestions how you want to approach this, we can just go through page by page, or we can go to those three main topics that I just discussed and visit those.
So are you hoping to have them like voted and approved tonight?
Nope.
Or
So the process would be to review what's proposed, and if the board is comfortable, they could set a public hearing, or they can continue discussion after we discuss this and we make changes to it, then we bring it to the next meeting, and then once if everyone's comfortable, then we set a public hearing. So it's kind of an iterative process if we don't find consensus tonight.
yeah, so I definitely think there's a few major sections in here that you changed a lot, and then most of the pages seemed like they were minor or just updating the references or callbacks.
Yes.
So if you kind of want to go, essentially page by page, but
Sure.
definitely.
Yep. So the first, so on page 1, it'll be A, I guess 1.01A. I removed the sentence, provide proper building location to ensure adequate sunlight and air circulation. I kind of, I see that superfluous, in my opinion. So I kind of thought, that it's, doesn't really need that. I think, so I I thought it would just be something that doesn't add value, I think, to this section, for the purpose of the subdivision reg. So I just struck that. And then the next change is definitions. So these definitions actually link up to what our definitions are in Appendix C, which is our stormwater regs. So just kind of bringing those together to make sure that they're talking to each other. So we don't have different definitions while we're reading site plan review on similar term, different definitions. So try to avoid that.
So quick question.
Yes.
So you're saying that under the definitions, there's nothing materially that's changed, just makes it more in alignment?
Correct.
Okay.
Literally took the definition and copied it.
Correct. Yep. That's what I did. So now they're all in sync. The next proposed change is on page 4. And this gets into applicability. So the first change is for A4, and it reads as follows. Change of use from one non-residential to another non-residential, which involves no more than 2,500 square feet of gross floor space. So I thought, there's a lot of, the reason why I picked 2,500 is because this kind of relates to stormwater as well, is that's kind of one of the thresholds when stormwater is reviewed. While this not necessarily would require, stormwater review because it's a change of use, I just figured, 2,500, there's a lot of buildings I feel that are, spaces that are 2,500 square feet. And so my thought was, does the board want to review these types of applications, or would they want the threshold to increase so they don't have to? So at what point, what size is there of a change of use which the board be comfortable with or want to review, want to have some oversight over?
So you just changed it from 2,000
To 2,500,
so
right? Yeah.
relatively
Right.
small.
Right. And this kind of links up to the other changes I'm going, as I go down the list.
Yeah, 2,500
Yeah.
seems to be kind of the standard
Yeah.
benchmark for kicking into a lot of things.
Correct. So the next change is number 8. And it reads, expansion of a non-residential floor space by less than 2,500 square feet within the 5-year period. So the purpose of this, again, is allow for some flexibility for those commercial entities that we have. But also we want to make sure they don't keep on pulling a permit, doing 2,500 square feet, and then pull another one, doing 2,500 square feet, so kind of get around that. So the idea is, okay, if there's going to be some control there, so you have this time frame added to this this standard, where if you go over 2,500 within this 5-year period, then you're coming to the planning board for minor site plan review. So that's kind of the thought process.
So what,
to avoid segmentation.
but you say expansion of non-residential floor space.
Yeah.
You saying that's in an existing structure?
Correct. Yeah. So yeah, it could be on a site or from a structure. So it could be an outbuilding or
Okay.
Yeah,
I wanted
yeah.
to just understand that.
Yep. Yeah. So for instance, like like a garage, next to like a auto body shop, maybe build another bay that's maybe not attached. So, just a
I'm
thought.
fine.
Yeah.
I just wanted to understand
Yep.
what exactly
Yep.
you were saying. Okay.
And you said within a 5-year period of like that permit?
Yeah,
Initial
so from,
permit?
the initial, yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
when that happens, the 5-year timeline starts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you want to say cumulative or
Yeah, you could probably say that. That's probably a good idea.
start the sentence?
Yeah. Cumulative. Yeah, that's a good call. That's a good point. And then next one, establishment. So I want to emphasize that. Establishment of no more than 3 residential units on a lot, provided that development does not require subdivision review. So this is basically if there's no residential units that exist on the lot, 3 units are allowed without site plan review, unless, if a subdivision is created, then it goes to subdivision. So that's if it's introducing a residential element. So, and this kind of links to the next one, which is the expansion.
And what was the reason for 3?
Well, I'm just thinking again to where we're going through form-based code. So we got like duplexes, maybe some triplexes, maybe conversion, of a existing non-residential building into 3 units. So the idea is to allow for these to exist without further review from the town. You just go through the building permit process.
Quite a few
'Cause-
towns have this as a threshold too.
Okay. Because we just did that whole VC, and that had 4 units, I think. There's something in
Some
my
of
brain about
them-
4 units.
Yeah, some of them were, it depends what sub-district you're in.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's some buildings that are permitted that are like a fourplex, duplex. There's like I think one section, I think in the south.
So there were specific things in there about site plan in that VC. Didn't we change something?
No,
with
so
that?
these sites, no, so that's just zoning what's allowed to exist. This would be the review thereof
Okay.
of those plans.
So it jives with that.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
The idea is to make, hey, we let you do this, and then we're not going to make you go to site plan.
correct. Yeah. But
So
once
this
you go
would-
over that threshold, then you come to the site plan.
Yeah, because this would apply to every district in town versus that was a specific for that
That's
VC. Okay.
Yep, that's correct.
Is that the kind of the goal to facilitate,
Incremental.
like to facilitate the zoning we just created? Or
Yeah.
to kind of a broader vision of zoning that we're planning on creating as well?
I think, again, this is a trajectory I think we're going towards. So the idea is to allow for these smaller scale developments to exist without further review. Because you could look at it, I could see both sides where it's incremental and it's accumulating, and then, and there hasn't been any site plan review over that. But we do it by lot anyways. We don't look at it holistically to begin with. So my idea was, if we're going towards this kind of more suite of building options for each zoning districts, let's allow for the smaller ones to go through this process. If you're adding a little more density to a lot, not have to go through the site plan process. And this is consistent with some other towns in the area as well. So this is not a novel idea that we're contemplating here. So a lot of towns have, if you go above 3 units, then you go into site plan. So,
Yeah, I definitely think it's advantageous to stick with the surrounding towns, so different developers are.
and from a building code standpoint, once you get above the 3rd unit, you go into the IBC code. So that's more of a commercial building as well.
Okay.
So
makes sense.
become more of a commercial, from a building code lens, it's more comprehensive. So the idea is this it's a balancing act, is having oversight over, larger scale developments, but allowing for the smaller scales to exist without further, review processes.
Okay. So what we do in T, I guess the reason I was asking was like, if we're gonna review another area to modify
Yep.
zoning in it, do we wait till that's complete so to make sure that this works with it? Or is is the goal to make this work with whatever we create? Because because it hits those limits like you just said.
Yeah,
so.
I think wherever for the next discussion is wherever that is, this will complement it. So I don't think they have to be in parallel. I think you can do one. You could move forward with this, or if you're more comfortable, you wait for those decisions, wait for town council decision, then move forward with this. And maybe for the applicability standpoint, I would like for town TRC to move forward if you guys consider that. But I just think it's consistent practice, throughout our area for these types of thresholds. Yeah.
I think it makes sense. Is there any case where it wouldn't make sense somewhere within the town? Because this applies to the whole town versus going through the specific
Yep.
districts.
Yep.
I mean, I think it makes sense. I'm just trying to think if there's any reason why it shouldn't be town-wide. 3 units
Well-
is not super significant, I think, in the grand scheme of things. For that site plan, it still gets obviously the building permits and everything else with it. It would just be bypassing our site plan review.
Yeah, a lot of town isn't zoned for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
it's
it's
not
not
gonna apply. But if we,
not gonna
yeah,
apply.
so I'm saying like if we change it and all of a sudden you can have 3 units like somewhere that we're not thinking of at this moment.
Right.
But we can
Yeah.
address that too, as we go through the zoning changes as well. So again,
Yeah.
I think you still move forward with this, and then as you're contemplating other changes, it could be adjusted.
But I gotta have a conversation offline with you on the 2,500 square foot threshold,
Okay.
only because I think there needs to be a little bit more thought put into that, because you could, well, the old, for instance, the pharmacy, right?
The Rite Aid?
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
say that's a 7,000 square foot building.
Mm-hmm.
A use could go in there that is significantly less impactful
Mm-hmm.
than what's there now.
Yep.
And I don't necessarily think that we should be looking at that if that's the case.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
If somebody went in there and said, I'm gonna put a
But this is
warehouse in there, I'm gonna sell lawn chairs. Less traffic, less impact, less
Mhm.
everything.
Or would a change in use dictate site plan? Just the change in use, different
That's
business?
what would, yeah, that's what we're talking about, yeah. You'd have to come to the planning board.
Lose an
That would
expansion.
be retail and retail, what you're just.
But those
said
are still
for-
considered changes in uses.
Yeah.
It's different types of retail.
But, no, I think retail, so we use our definitions, so we'll just say hypothetically, a retail store moves in to the Rite Aid. That's not change of use, just change of business. Yeah.
I agree, but that's not how it's been
Administered.
interpreted for a long time, right? Well, we can talk, we don't need
Yeah.
to spend all night
I
talking.
agree with it. Because I was thinking the same thing, because the change of use is probably the number of people a day that use the
Right.
business is the most impactful part of the change of
Correct.
use. Or clearly if they incinerate garbage versus, grow flowers is a
Yep.
huge difference too.
Right.
Like the actual uses,
Okay, well,
but,
I can definitely
volume of usage.
workshop that one more, and,
You're thinking as in like a percentage, because obviously a big place versus a
intensity.
small place, like, yeah, I guess that's what you're getting as intensity.
Like if a Pelsvar got sold to someone that didn't have any visitors, or a lawyer or something that has 5 visitors a day instead of, it's a funeral parlor where some days they have 200 visitors, there's some uses that wouldn't have the same
Yeah.
impact, or vice versa, where it
And I
goes
think
from a
that-
lower impact to
And
that's a
that
change
gets
of
at
use.
some of the other things we've been concerned with, which is, like, when we're talking about VC corridor, right? The parking, the access, how busy is that property, the density, so I think that is a concern that we've expressed before.
Yeah, the intensity of the use is more important than the use itself.
and that's what,
Oftentimes.
yeah, B1 kind of strives towards, or,
Yep.
so maybe it's adjusting or kind of proposing a couple alternative
Yeah.
numbers there.
Yeah, so it's
Number 4
contemplated.
you're thinking about, right, Eric? Number 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one that triggered that for me.
So it's keeping the use case, it's just tweaking the square footage is kind of where you're thinking?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Or there needs to be some thresholds of impact, I think, associated with it.
Because that would normally go to you, and then you would have to interpret from this whether it needs that or not.
Yeah, it'd be code enforcement and myself in tandem, typically. Yep, okay. So the next one is expansion of an existing multifamily or mixed-use building by no more than 3 residential units within the 5-year period, provided that there's no expansion of the principal structure by more than 2,500 square feet, and the development does not require subdivision review.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable to me.
And then 11 being the conversion of a residential or non-residential building into a multifamily or mixed-use building containing no more than 3 residential units. Again, provided that there's no expansion of the principal structure or footprint by more than 2,500 square feet and the development is not subject to subdivision review. And I wasn't sure, I just put it in, kind of want your thoughts. Conversion of a multifamily residential use into a single-family duplex residential use provided doesn't require subdivision review.
That's kind of exactly what I was talking about with the
Yeah.
other one. I mean, nobody should have to come to the planning board to
Right.
even talk about that.
Yeah.
You still have to, so like the zone we just created where we said you have to have a non-residential use within the building. You can't convert, this doesn't allow you to convert that without some sort of review or something.
No, it doesn't, because
Yeah,
that's in the
it's
zoning, so
still
that
zoning.
supersedes.
That's
You still
zoning.
have to go to zoning.
That's
if you
all.
wanna
This
get
is
a-
the review processes.
Yeah.
You know, when you need to go for review. Yeah.
They're still gonna have to go to ZBA or whatever.
If they want a variance.
Yeah, if they want a variance to
Yep.
do such, and then if it's the number of units then exceeds this, then we would see it. So they could go to ZBA for 2 units and we wouldn't see it.
Right, so they get whatever
ZBA
relief they
before.
need from the zoning,
Right.
and then there's a possibility we don't see it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But theoretically, that's under the thresholds already, so it's low impact.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. It's,
Yeah.
but if it's 4, we would see it.
It's got-
ZBA and then
yeah.
planning board.
But when you did this list, one thing that is missing from my perspective,
Mhm.
and maybe it's dealt with and I just didn't pick up on it, condo conversion.
That's a subdivision.
Yeah, but we we don't have to take jurisdiction of it. State law allows us not to. A lot of towns don't.
How does everyone feel about that?
So for those of you who don't know, if you take an apartment building and convert it to condominiums, in New Hampshire, that's considered a subdivision. There is a state law that allows towns, cities and towns, to either take jurisdiction of it or not take jurisdiction of it. So if you don't take jurisdiction of it, it's just change the type of ownership and you move forward. If you take jurisdiction of it, you have to go to the planning board and get approval, which involves site plans and talking about snow storage and garbage and all that stuff. The trend is that more and more towns are not taking jurisdiction because it's painful.
These buildings are already built
And-
for residential, theoretically.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a building in town here that's 6 units, it's been an apartment building for 50 years,
Right.
why do we care that it's condominiums?
Yeah, I feel like functionally it's the same for the town's purpose.
Exactly.
It's just whoever's managing the property.
Exactly. And we've had a lot of them over the years here, and quite honestly, they can get painful. They can get very painful. When a site plan regulation says you need to show snow storage. Well, the building's been there for
100 years, yeah.
70 years, and we've survived without showing it now,
Yeah.
so. Just a thought.
I think it has to do with multiple people owning it and a common understanding of what to do, say with snow. And I think, right, and then we have the ability to say, you got 6 people, and now you got 6, you have common space that has common ownership, maybe even outside, where, how are you gonna manage that in a
Well, it's usually managed better in a condominium than it is as a rental. Right, because a rental is no management.
Wouldn't those things be
Yeah,
covered
for the
by
most part.
the AG review of the bylaws before they can even become a condo?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Yeah, they have to establish their bylaws and there'd be probably provisions within there. But typically, we'd have to review the bylaws, with our legal counsel,
Right.
prior to approval.
And where in the site plan.
Right.
There's the site
Maybe just something to think about.
plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not commenting either way on it.
No, I got a quick question.
nobody
though.
It sounds
I
like a great
do a
idea. I
lot
haven't
of
thought
them.
about it before, so I might come up with something later.
Just because I don't like the it's a difficult, it's not a simple process, which is why I personally don't like to deal with them at all, let alone professionally or on a planning board. So,
You have a question, Jay?
Yeah, no, I was just curious, and I'm in total agreement with you. If it was 6 units before, it's gonna be 6 units no matter what, and there you go. But does that change anything regarding trash removal or anything if it becomes like a private thing? Does the town still have to do that, the trash removal, or do they have to do the trash removal? I'm just curious.
They could hire their own service if they wanted to, but then if they're in the service network, the town would still pick it up.
All right, so,
Yeah. It's just an ownership change.
Yeah,
It's not
and-
a service change.
so it won't make any difference to the town regarding,
No, there's no additional cost at town.
Okay, that's what I just want to make sure there's no additional cost there. And if it's a building that's already been there, let's say it's off a main road, the town would be responsible for doing the road, right, meaning for snow removal. And if it's a private condominium, or if it was apartments, the residents would be the ones responsible for shoveling their cars out or shoveling the walkway as it is today. So I guess I'm saying I agree with everything Eric said.
As long as the town didn't accept the road, it's a private road, then it's, the condominium association be responsible
Right, that's
for
right,
it.
yeah, okay.
Unless they,
All right, sorry about that aside.
No?
what about the change of units? And you're creating more, what if it's it's a single-family home, somebody wants to divide into
Yep.
a condo, that's 2 units.
Like a duplex condo?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be a subdivision, technically.
So that would be different than if it was 2 units turned into a
Yeah,
Correct,
condo?
right, so that's different, because you're adding units, you're not changing ownership.
Well, yeah, but I mean both at once, like you're taking
So if it was,
here's the,
Well, like his say here, it does not require subdivision review, so you already bypassed the
we
exemption.
could
by doing
say
subdivision.
condominium conversion, which probably has its, I have to double check its own definition. And then, but if you're creating units within that conversion process, say a multifamily owned by one person, but you had an idea to squeeze a couple more units in there, then that's a subdivision, because then the ownership's gonna change. So that would be a subdivision, because you're adding more units. You're not just changing ownership. A 6-unit becoming an 8-unit.
yeah, that's why you
Yeah.
use a single family.
Yeah,
into-
or a single
into-
family.
Into 2 units is,
Well, they'd be exempt, well, unless the kid's subdivision, so.
yeah,
I
that's
think
why I was-
duplexes are exempt anyways, so it'll be up to 3. But, we'll have to
So
look
you'd
at
have
this.
to look at what the subdivision
Yeah,
rules are to see if it actually still requires that subdivision
I think
review
it
or
does, yeah.
falls under that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it does. So, if you go above 3 units and you're subdividing, then you go into subdivision review.
But 2 units isn't a subdivision.
Correct. Duplexes are exempt.
So even in a condo case like that, it would still fall under basically the same
Still
rule
a
of thumb for
subdivision
us?
under condo rules, though, isn't it?
No, because he says it does not require a subdivision, but conversion to a condominium by state law
Still
is a subdivision.
Yeah.
So when you convert the
To change
single-family
that.
house to 2 units in a condo, it's still a subdivision.
Correct.
Yes.
By state law, it's a
By
subdivision.
state law.
State law is a subdivision. Correct.
So I don't even know, like, I literally never deal with condominiums. So the registry will accept that subdivision not signed by the planning board?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I guess, are we okay with that? I'm okay with that. I don't know if there's anything to codify in here against that, or, I don't wanna
Probably
have.
talk more about that when we get to subdivision.
Oh,
Yeah,
true, that's
true,
true, it's
yeah.
turned into a subdivision thing, you're right.
There's a whole nother appendix, everybody.
Yeah. And then move on to minor review. So the first change, again, adjusting the threshold, change of use of a non-residential site for which no change in floor area is proposed and which either maintains decreased intensity of use on the site with respect to parking demand and traffic generation for a site with more than 2,500 square feet but less than 5,000 square feet in gross floor area. And then,
So Bart,
yes,
to beat a dead horse,
Yes.
like in this one, if you're decreasing the intensity, and parking and traffic generation,
Mhm.
why do we care what the square footage is?
Yeah, it's just for those larger sites, so I guess it's a
You know what I
use,
mean?
it's a use, yeah. Yeah, no, that's a
But
good
how would
point.
we know that the intensity decreasing unless they came before us and described it?
They'd still have to get building permits.
Yeah.
And that could still be addressed administratively through the building inspector and Bart, or the, whoever the
Yeah,
administrator
so
is.
basically we look at it, we look at the use, the intensity, what's the interface between the public, and then, so we just get a generator. So if we have a inkling that it would be an increase in use, based on the evidence presented, then we, send the site plan.
Yeah, they could still ask the building owner to say, all right, give me a traffic memo from a traffic engineer
Yeah.
that says this generates less traffic than what was there before.
And then again, kind of building off of one, number two is the expansion of non-residential floor space by more than 2,500 square feet, but less than 5,000 square feet, with no change of use. And then number three is the deletion of the paragraph, which is a change of use of an existing non-residential building, which will be accompanied by a renovation of the facade of the building, which, in the opinion of the planning board, will enhance its aesthetic contribution to the heritage and visual qualities of the village. Figured we have a downtown commercial overlay district that the town in general agrees they want to have that type of oversight over preservation, but not necessarily outside that district. And we are moving more towards a form-based code where we don't necessarily regulate the aesthetics of the shell of the building, the facade, but we do the area of it, the dimensions. And also we do have some site plan regulations for those, these of right now, that addresses that along 108. So we'll get into that a little later though. Yep, so then some renumbering. And then the new number 5 in minor site plans, development or redevelopment activities disturbing less than 20,000 square feet and more than 5,000 square feet impervious surface, or will disturb more than 2,500 square feet of area with 100 feet of surface water body. So this is pulled from the Appendix C, which requires site plan review, but again, it's just kind of linking the two together, just to have some consistency.
I was wondering if that last piece will still disturb more than 2,500 square feet within 100 feet of surface water body. Should that be no more than 2,500 square feet?
Well, they're proposing, so I think it's more. I can double check, but
I have the same question, Bart, on that, except for the 5,000 square feet. Because we're talking, this is a minor, right?
yep.
Minor review. So if you disturb less than 20,000 square feet,
Mm-hmm.
I understand that's minor, and adding more than 5,000 square feet of impervious surface. So if we just, if somebody did a project, disturbed 18,000 square feet, but added 4,000 square feet of impervious surface, they're not exempt by this.
Right, they wouldn't go to site minor review.
Hmm?
They wouldn't go to minor review. They would not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they'd be exempt.
Okay.
So really, I'm just taking this language, and I'll double check though, on the last part. I'm just trying to link the
Yeah.
the stormwater
Yeah, yep.
and
Yep.
because
Yep.
and minor site plan review threshold.
I also think you're missing a
You could do like 19,999 square feet of new parking lot.
No, that's impervious surface. Parking.
Oh, sorry, more than 4,000. I thought. Exactly. No, it says, and adding more.
Yeah, so it would be under. So if you
To serve less than 20,000, you have an existing building with no parking lot, say, or with a very small parking lot,
yeah.
and you want to build a 19,000 square foot parking lot.
You
No,
can't,
you
because
could-
can't because then you're at impervious surface.
You
So
could
that's
build a
above.
4,000 square foot parking lot. It wouldn't go to site.
And adding more than 5,000 square.
Okay, you can change and or. Or and.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
More makes more sense.
Or you could say disturbing less than 20,000 square feet. Oh, wait.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I think I was misreading something.
Okay, so if you are doing a project, let's say, on a 20,000 square foot lot, and you disturb 5,001 square feet, you go into minor site plan.
No.
That's only if that's 5,001 square feet of impervious surface you're adding.
Yeah, so you're disturbing less than 20,000 square feet to
Yeah.
do the project. And then I'm adding 1 square foot more of impervious surface.
So more than 25% of that disturbed area is impervious now.
Yeah. Then that go in the site plan.
4,900 doesn't get you there.
Yeah.
5,000 does
Yeah.
get you. Yes. Yeah, that's why I said I think I was reading something wrong. Second.
But moral of the story, you'll make sure it goes and matches the language for the stormwater, because that's ultimately what you're trying to match.
Yeah, the last
Okay.
clause,
If
F,
you,
F to the or, yeah.
if you copied and pasted it, it's missing feet from both right there.
Yep.
After square, after 5,000.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I think there was another time too. Might have forgotten
And
feet after
more
square.
Square feet, yeah.
I think it's C6 here also.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Oh, you added a comments for you, Bart?
It's okay. There was an attempt. So,
Anything
how
else?
does people feel about that one? You know, with clarification in the last clause, next to surface water body. Are people okay with that?
I think that's
Yeah.
reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stormwater aspects to that we'll look at as we've been dealing with past 1 or 2 meetings ago. We had similar.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that makes sense.
And moving to major review. First amendments on C2 is the establishment of more than 3 residential units on a lot. So again, it's just kind of going back to what's not applicable. And just, go on the other side of the equation. And then C3, expansion of residential units on a lot by more than 3 residential units. The new 5 would be expansion of non-resident floor space by more than 5,000 square feet. Number 6, development and redevelopment activities serving more than 20,000 square feet and adding more than 5,000 square feet impervious surface.
Yeah, it doesn't say feet.
Yep, got that. Thank you. And then change of use of non-residential site totaling more than 5,000 square feet of gross floor area. So again, this goes back to your point, Eric, just in those thresholds. You know, and the last point, you know, when does it make sense? You know, if it's already a building and uses.
So that change of use totaling more than 5,000 square feet, so that's if they tally up, you know, the building, like we said, was 10,000 square feet, and only 4,900 square feet of that, they're changing use. They wouldn't have the site plan review. The rest of the use, maybe my numbers might be off, but that's kind of how that would shape out. So
Right,
like
so
the
they're
pharmacy,
basically like dividing like the building in two, so they're gonna have a new business say next to it.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the ones, though, Bart, I would like to discuss about having, again, a caveat to that.
Yeah.
You know, something to expansive non-residential floor space by more than 5,000 square feet and having some threshold increase in traffic or something.
Intensity.
Again, because it could be less intense than what's there now. So you could have 10 apartments. And
Yep.
somebody says, I'm gonna put in I don't know, something that, a business that doesn't take any traffic or whatever.
Yeah, so does it make sense to have some kind of callback?
Financial analyst.
There we go.
Yeah.
So can you do some kind of callback to the intensity clause where you still keep your
Yes,
square footage?
exactly,
Yes.
yeah.
But then there's
Yeah.
kind of that
Yeah, I
evaluation
can
piece.
massage that out.
Yep.
Yeah, load some language.
And the other thing, Barb,
Yeah.
I think what we need to have, believe it or not, because I've seen it, is we need to have a definition of the 5,000 square feet.
Okay.
Is that exterior or interior?
Yep.
I've been in the middle of that discussion with the town. One of your favorite towns, Barb,
One of my favorites.
that has the same threshold.
Yeah.
Do you need, if you're gonna go to the traffic, do you need to like literally quantify it and say an increase in traffic of more than X% or something like that? Or do you just say an increase? Or,
No, I think you'd have to
decrease
say it,
quantify
I'll have to get
something.
that language, Bart.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody has language that says an expansion, or an increase in says a significant increase in traffic, but then it kind of defines what that is.
Yeah, yeah, we can find that.
So it's
Yeah.
not left up to the
It's not that.
Yeah, no.
opinion of the board?
Yes.
Exactly.
No, we'll do that to make it clear to everyone.
Is there just out of curiosity, is there a definition in there of a bed and breakfast by like unit number or anything like that? Can I put in a bed and breakfast with like 60 units?
We do have a definition.
Okay.
It's a very large bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
It is.
I think it caps the units.
Okay, it does. Okay,
Right.
that's all I was curious
Yeah.
about. I just
Then
had.
it turns into a hotel.
Yeah,
It's
it's
kind
not
of
like a
Or a
curious.
campground.
Yeah. Okay, so that was part one of the major changes. Part two is the establishment of the technical review committee.
Are you saying we have to have anything
Nothing formal, always ad hoc. So typically the process goes, an applicant submits for plan acceptance, the board accepts the plan and then establishes a technical review committee and continues the application to the next meeting. And then in the interim, there'd be a TRC review.
Bart, can I hear? Go ahead, Bill.
If I get this right, I know we're jumping ahead, but are you requesting the submission to TRC directly before it gets the application review? And why do you want that?
To try to smooth, resolve any issues that may exist. So the idea is to kind of identify issues prior to the planning board's review through all the different departments and consultants. And then, again, those will be suggestions or things to watch out for and relate to the applicant. So it's kind of a collaborative process where we problem solve any issues that are identified. And hopefully they take those comments and make remedies or address those comments. And then the idea is to take care of a lot of the issues prior to a planning board filing, so it's a smoother process.
Yeah. I will go through, but I can see pros and cons of the two different approaches of, waiting to get the exceptions to see if the planning board provides some input before the TRC gets it.
I guess that would be like a design review almost, right? Is that where we can kind of weigh in on things that we're thinking that could be issues coming down the road? But then the questions of like, oh, did you talk to the fire chief about this? Those would then already be resolved by the time it gets to us. And you still do have 2 planning board members on the TRC to kind of raise some of those issues, resolve it at that level. Just wouldn't be
True.
the board broader.
True, good point. All right.
Yeah, and I've seen this both ways. I've seen, again, some towns, you make a submittal and then it goes to TRC, some you go to TRC, you make a preliminary submittal, but it goes right to TRC. The ones that go right to TRC seem to get through the process quicker. But Bart, can I recommend one
Yeah.
small change?
Sure.
A, where it says composition,
Yeah.
the TRC shall consist. I
Mhm.
think we need to change that to
May.
may consist.
Yeah, 'cause you may
Well, I
not
look
get
at number
people.
5, town staff.
Yeah.
Us, as the planning board, has no ability to tell the DPW director you have to be at a TRC meeting, or the police chief, or whomever. They can be invited to it, but
Yeah, you can't make them.
we can't tell them to come.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, some kind of clause to,
Yeah, I mean, the following shall be invited to the TRC, whatever.
yeah, and I'm
No.
assuming our members would be appointed, just like we do for the other committees.
Yes.
How about the TRC will strive to consist of the following?
So what happens, what usually
Oh, yeah,
happens
it
is, what has happened in the past is
Yeah.
a plan would come in here, we had accepted as complete, and then said we're gonna send it to the TRC, and then just ask for 2 volunteers, or sometimes there are 3 volunteers, who's available, the meeting's gonna be next week, who's available.
Okay, so I was thinking this more as like a standing committee that would meet every month like the other
It can
committees
be,
we've had.
it can
be,
be,
yeah.
absolutely, it can
Okay.
be, yep.
But
Would you-
what's your intent with this, though? To have it be an established group?
Yes.
Okay.
And these boards would elect or
Yep. A point.
appoint a representative.
Yep.
Whom they have the ability to appoint an alternate in one's absence.
Yeah, we could put that in.
Yeah, it's part of the shall. It's
Yeah.
like, I think some of them say like a maximum of or something like that.
Yeah.
If you look at the
I
statute
just
that
do
creates the planning board or whatever.
One
it is.
member, comma, or colon, or semicolon, one alternate.
Yeah, definitely make it match with the other
Yeah.
committee stuff, because I know these are recommendations that come out of that, but obviously there's an endorsement aspect that, although nothing's binding in there, we're gonna take weight with it.
Yeah.
So quorum and all that other stuff needs to go along with it too. So like, I assume the town staff, like, would they, for the purposes, would be like a voting member to say, yeah, this seems like a coherent package, we're good with.
Yeah, you're just making recommendations, so it's not a approval or denial. It's just here's our recommendations, and then you send basically the idea is I would collect all those recommendations, I put it in a memo, and it'd be part of the package of the application too. So the idea is it never gets lost. You'll know what has been said there, and the applicant will have to, I would submit that to the applicant and the board, but as part of the package, application package is part of the submittal, so it's there.
Do you think that, and maybe your experience there, speak to it, like the effectiveness of a TRC if it's prior or after? Like, because a lot of times they come a little bit late, right? Like they've got design and then people look at it and then, DPW director's here in the final stages and it's like, actually you didn't do what we needed you to do. Like, but, yeah, so is there a second TRC review of it at the
It
end?
can be.
Or is it just, you know what I mean, just at the beginning? Or
We could have multiple
Yeah.
TRC reviews if, again, it's, a lot of this is driven by the applicant, so we're requiring the applicant go through during major applications. Sorry, that was directed at Eric, sorry.
Well, it's kind of both.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
My take is that the TRCs that happen before the official submittal are more productive. Because with the fire chief and DPW, water and sewer, any of those issues are addressed right up front, so that they don't have to.
Planning board didn't hem and haw with something that DPW is gonna be like, nope.
Right, or they don't come in with a site plan that's all designed and the fire chief says,
Yeah, exactly.
I need access on 3 sides of the building, I only have access on 2, so go redesign it. You get all that kind of input up front. So that usually when it gets to the planning board after that, there's less garbage to go through. You know, a lot of the technical issues have been worked out.
So some of it isn't recommendations, it is kind of binding, right? Because they have to give access.
Well,
to
they
the
have,
fire
well, they
department.
have to follow the site plan regs, the design regs, so
Right.
yes, they're binded to that, but, you know,
The Concom says, geez, we'd really like you to install trees as a buffer, and then they'd be like,
Yep.
And then so it gets to the planning board and they don't put the trees, and they're like, okay, they didn't do that, but we gave
Right.
the fire chief his access on 3 sides.
right, so it's, you know, probably some non-binding comments, some identifying, you know, standards that haven't been met, you know, so it's gonna be a mixture. Because they also can provide for request for relief as well, waiver relief.
I like it before, because then like the planning board can take into consideration in a meeting setting the recommendations of
Right.
one of these other board members.
And the ones
Instead
that
of
have
at a
the,
last meeting, you know?
right,
Yeah.
and the ones that have the town's review engineer there
Yeah.
are much more productive. So usually you make a submittal, you know, and they have a TRC meeting 2 or 3 weeks later. The review engineer for the town has had a chance to look at it, so you get preliminary comments from them, you know, which saves the planning board a ton of time. Look, as a planning board, it's crazy for us to sit here and go through 100 comments from the review engineer.
Right.
You know, let resolve all the technical stuff with them, right? And we go through the stuff to make sure it meets our regulations and stuff. The technical stuff can be resolved. It doesn't have to be resolved in a meeting where you're all sitting here for 2 hours listening to.
Right. And they have to meet the review engineer does check it again anyway, right? I mean,
Yes.
The review engineer says make that 12-inch pipe an 18-inch pipe.
Yes.
And the review engineer says, yes, they made it an
Yeah.
18-inch pipe
Yes.
anyway, so
Yes,
you're correct, like why
Yes.
put the board through?
yes.
Yeah.
So it's oftentimes better to get, even when you get in front of the planning board, you get the letter from the review engineer saying, you know, here's my original comments. They've all been addressed except for A, B, and C, and, you know, A, B, and C are at the pleasure of the board, whatever the planning board wants or whatever.
May save.
Makes it more
You may
efficient.
save 1 or 2 trips of an engineer to the board on behalf of their applicant.
It makes the planning board meetings a lot more efficient.
So do we want to go through each one of these items, or do we take the general gist?
I think general gist, because it sounds like I have a little more work to do with some of the applicability. So if you know, the general, you know, I just go through them really quickly, and then, you know, if you want to provide comments at the next meeting, that'd be great. So yeah, so the applicability is, it's just all major plans, so the applicant has could elect to, if it was a minor, to go to minor review, or it could be at my discretion too, if it's a really complicated minor for whatever reason. I could send it to TRC review as well. So it gives me that discretion. And then it just goes through, you know, what the applicant should provide for materials, and, you know, how to file the application, and then what's required within the application, and then the outcome of the TRC review.
This one's missing item 6, 86, the last sentence.
A6, okay.
I think
Oh, yeah, so it looks like a sentence. Oh.
In
not
the
that
instance, I think that's supposed to be outside the
Instance, yeah.
shall submit something.
Yep. I'll look into that.
Go find that.
Yeah. Ellipse. It's like Monty Python.
Tails well.
Yeah.
Start at B today.
Yeah. And again, so going through page 9, kind of application submittal requirements, there's a copy of the TRC review letter. Same thing on page 11 with major applications. So the minor one is if they go to TRC for a minor review, then they provide that. that letter. And then same thing for major review. Establishment of a fee for TRC review. I removed the recording of site plans because they're very difficult to do in this county. So that is proposed to be removed, and some renumbering. And then for regional notice, I just circled back to the RSA instead of the additional standards that the town has imposed. Happy to have that discussion maybe at the next meeting. If people would like to keep that or just defer to what the RSA says. And then on page 17, notice of decision, removing superfluous language, referencing statute. And then next amendment, so design standards, updating reference guides, updating zoning districts, updating parking standards, some uses too. We don't have a definition, for instance, on A1H for meeting room. Sure, we want that, so it's just I just went through those and made some suggestion edits there. And then moving from page 20 to 25 is just all updates to new zoning districts. Updating on page 25 existing positions and responsibilities. Also in section 3.10, consolidating those standards there. And then page 26, just removing language that is superfluous because it's mentioned in the reference to our existing stormwater guides.
Yeah, for a second. Something caught my eye on floodplain management, 312.
Okay.
This time motion required for the development rate of 50 lots of 5 acres. Includes flood elevation. Do we need that size criteria? 'Cause when you get to the site plan requirements, it does request the base flood elevation.
Yeah, you're right.
Should we just remove it?
Remove the
Yeah.
size.
Yeah.
Well, Bob, in Newmarket, you can't build in a floodplain,
That's correct. There's only in the M2 you can,
right?
but I don't think the M2 really goes in the floodplain, yeah. Yeah, most of it's prohibited. It's actually just a recent variance request to add stairs yesterday in the floodplain, so.
So I guess I'm not sure that's needed, because you can't build in the floodplain in town.
Right.
So you're saying the whole section's not needed?
It's moot because you can't build.
You can't build in
in
a
there.
Right.
100-year flood, yeah.
Provide this data to say I can't build here
Yeah,
anyways.
no, it's I understood the whole thing.
Right. Isn't the idea though that I know you can't build it, but if you're creating lots, you're showing the buildability of the lot by showing a line on the plan and saying, here's the line. It doesn't cover the entire lot. And if you don't show it, then you're like, I have no idea. I did not know that lot was within the flood zone.
Right, yeah, I get his point, yeah. So this may be a development that's on a parcel, but not, the entire thing is in the floodplain, right?
Yeah, so the floodplain is cutting across a
Right.
proposed lot, but you can't determine its buildability if you don't know where that floodplain line crosses the lot, because it might be 10
And you-
feet from the road or something like
Right.
that.
And your lot size too. Say if you're subdividing, like your maximum lot potential, because it subtracts from your acreage, at least as of right now.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is if you're gonna build a house, you're required to show it no matter what. And if you're gonna do a subdivision, you're not necessarily gonna build a house, so maybe you don't have to show it.
Well, I didn't
It's
even get
two
that
lots.
far. When I looked at the site plan requirements, it does say include the base flood elevation in the floodplain. And then 50 lots of 5 acres seem kind of large for
Yeah.
what we're involved with in Newmarket, especially if you're near the floodplain.
So you just remove the quantifiers?
Isn't it required to show in any development plan that you're gonna put together?
It's always shown, but I don't
Well,
know that it's
development that's
required.
on a parcel that,
If you're not building in that
think
portion
you
of it, I don't know.
To me, you should show where the flood.
As
I mean,
as
right.
good
No matter
engineering
what.
practice, we always
Yeah.
show the line, whether you're building in it or not.
Yeah,
And we've I've done
But
subdivisions
this
where you
is
do
the
a lot as
elevation,
part of the
not
subdivision,
just
and then you
like
kind
a
of
lot.
show,
Yeah.
we've removed this portion of this lot, so it is
which is
buildable.
different.
So you have to prove out that it's a buildable lot, no
Right.
matter what, I guess.
And
it's
it
not
includes
one
this
subdivision.
Yeah.
I guess would there be any
Because
instance
we need
where,
subdivision approval for any subdivision.
so would there be any instance where you'd want that data to inform how you're looking at their site plan and recommendations, whether they're really close to the line or there's somehow some feature, whether it's, I don't know, roadways, I don't know.
Well, that could,
But is that what would be filling in this kind of why that's there?
yeah, it could be in our standards though, as for what's required on the plan. As, you know, I agree with Bill though, the 50 lots and 5 acres is too much, but,
We can come
Because-
back to it, we don't need to make a
yeah,
search.
yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because sometimes it's like.
see what other communities do too.
It's determined in a way that's extremely difficult to plot or to show, and sometimes it's drawn and there's no elevation, you literally trace it.
Right.
You know, and it is how it's shown on the map, no matter what you say.
Right.
It is what the map looks like.
But you could have the floodplain line, boundary, but not the elevation.
Right, because sometimes it's not based on an elevation. There's no base flood elevation determined or something, you know, like, and you have to do a study to figure out. And I don't know, and they've updated Newmarket's maps, so I think they're all based on elevations now.
Yeah, I think 21 they updated it.
Yeah, because I was gonna do one at my house, and I was like, I have to survey this enormous swamp
Yeah.
in order to figure out
Yeah.
the flood elevation through it,
Right.
flood elevations, and my house is just, you know, it's
50
15
lots.
feet above the water level.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I didn't do it, change the maps. So I can see how it could be.
It's good to have. I don't know if it needs to be in this section of part or whether it's just on the, you know, plan requirements that,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, this is
Show the
this
base
is
flood
the
elevation.
this is the design section. So the plan requirements. So what should be on the plan?
all right, so I would say remove the 50 lots or 5 acres, because
Yep.
you want it regardless.
I agree with that.
Have we ever had a 50 lot subdivision?
Golf course was the
Golf
last
course,
one,
right?
probably the only.
I think 32.
And then the last one is 3.21. I do want to stop here. And how do people feel about the architectural design aesthetic review being applicable to the whole village corridor district?
Feel like
So
a-
it is basically along 108, but it goes out a little bit. So there are some lots that are outside that 108 corridor. This is page 31, Jeff. So right now it's along Route 108, it says, so I'll read the whole sentence. Purpose of this section is to strike a balance between architectural designs complementing the town's urban core while fostering economic development opportunities. This regulation applies only to structures located, enter new language, in the village corridor district or within the downtown commercial overlay district, which is kind of superfluous, but
Subdivision.
I'm happy with it, I think we should try to keep that, or look at, I think we could.
I agree.
I also like keeping districts uniform instead of differentiating along 108 versus district writ large, just keeping it all the same overlay.
Is this the stuff that was added because of Tabby?
no. This is prior to Tab. This was originally, well, we did change it because I have to see where it was before then,
That's
but
fine, that's fine,
Yeah.
I
yeah.
just couldn't remember.
The overlay district was because of Tabby. All right, something to chew on next time.
I think we generally agree on that. I don't think we need to chew on it more.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, does anybody need more time with it?
And then plat standard, so again, section 4 is just the plat standards, just updating those.
See B10, Bart, on this, on page 35, talks about the base flood elevation.
Yep.
I mean, that's why I don't think that other whole section is required, because this is just something that's required on the plan, so.
Yeah. So you're just saying it's, just redundancy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That means there's a chance of not matching up, but.
Yep.
Is that because it's this, yeah,
Everyone agree, just remove the one in the section 3, prior section,
Yeah, I think that makes
and
sense.
just have it as a plat standard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff, looking at you.
Yeah, I think it should
Okay.
just be there,
Okay.
regardless of the size of the subdivision.
Okay.
Right.
Cool. And then the other, I think of note, 4.10B2 is just clarifying all the types of wetlands we would like to see delineated and categorized. Prime, poorly, very poorly, drained soils, for prime wetland. And then also a summary table. So this is why I find a lot of site plans being submitted, they hide the wetland calculation sometimes, or it's not apparent on the plan. So having a summary table of the composition of wetlands and then the percentage thereof.
But I would suggest adding to that one, not only the percentage of lands comprising the wetlands, but the buffers also.
Yeah, good call.
That's always a
Yeah,
bone of contention.
excellent call. And then also later on in that section, I think, yes, in C15, again, wetland calculations for identifying the minimum lot size and maximum density permissible. And then we just move forward to signing amendments.
We'll like that.
Yeah. Then requiring as-built. I think this is the last time we spoke about this. I think I tweaked it a little bit. Is if there's anything underground that we require as-builts. For at least for all major site plans, we're requiring as-builts, but for those minor site plans that are not proposing any type of underground structures or utilities, then as-builts aren't required. So kind of a compromise there.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Is there any, requirement of how the as-built is completed?
Surveyor? Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah, so it says such as-built plans shall meet current standards as set forth by the New Hampshire Joint Board of Licensure and the New Hampshire Land Surveyors Association, and must depict at a minimum all on-site utility structures, curb cuts, monumentation, driveways, and stormwater facilities. Or those are majors.
Should we include a timeline or something?
I think it's on the next page.
Prior to CO,
Okay.
Is to be submitted to,
code enforcement and me. Well, the position I have. The Director of Community Development and Code Enforcement.
yeah, we went through that.
Yeah,
Didn't we talked about it.
we talked about it, yeah. And then we tabled it and now we're back.
Because I was looking at a lot of this, I'm like, oh, we're doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
Can I throw one more thing
Sure.
to add to
Yeah.
that potentially, just have a discussion about?
Yeah?
Is that, it's, in Massachusetts, it's common practice that when you do an as-built like that, that you also include a letter from surveyor or engineer outlining any discrepancies between the as-built and what was designed
That's a good call.
for record, so
Yeah.
that oftentimes somebody in town is busy to get an as-built and they just throw it in the drawer, don't realize that it wasn't built the way, excuse me, the way it was supposed to be. So generally I have to send a letter accompanying it saying, hey, it's built in reasonable close conformance except for X, Y, and Z, and then the town can make a decision whether X, Y, and Z are acceptable or not.
And just how it's practiced too, we would try to work with, through the process, hopefully we identify those changes, so again, if they're major changes, then, come back for review, so.
Yeah, but you will find that
Yeah.
there are people that aren't gonna tell you they
Yeah, I
change
know,
stuff.
I know.
And you and the building inspector or Rick shouldn't have to be sitting down looking at two plans, trying to figure out
It's a good
if it
call.
was built right.
I think personally, I think that assessment should be done by an engineer.
Typically it is. That's how we do it right now, so, I look at it and then, have some kind of second eyes, so with professional.
I'm just saying not
engineer,
the
yeah,
surveyor.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Not
no,
a
I
surveyor.
yes.
Jeff, what are you trying to do?
I'm trying to say,
Yeah.
we don't design it, we shouldn't say it
Yeah.
wasn't, built right. Give them the information, say, this is how it was built, and the engineer says that works or it doesn't.
All right.
So,
Keep it there and stay.
for the subdivisions, it's kind of mirrors, there's some minor changes, but I don't think we have to go through this. So my suggestion is just read it through, since we're gonna make some changes for the next meeting. Just read through this and, just gather some thoughts.
So Bart, any changes, any comments anybody has, get to you in the next couple weeks?
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, next couple of weeks would be perfect.
That way you'll have plenty of time before
Yep.
the next meeting.
Yeah, and I'm sure Val will have some input she'd like to
Exactly.
provide next meeting.
Exactly.
All right.
Okay.
Just so you know, we didn't go through all of this one either, right?
I think we went through most of it. Is there a major thing I missed?
I went page through, page by page.
Yeah, there were a bunch of pages where nothing changed.
Yeah.
Couple of sentences here and there.
Yeah, so some of them are, renumbering.
Be aligning in one with the new BC. That was in quite a
Yep.
few pages.
Just more updates to references.
Yeah, you'll have,
I think
you'll
I
have
was
it.
busy reading something in depth.
Yeah.
Maybe when you breeze through all these pages, so that's what I didn't recommend.
We're not voting or doing anything with it tonight, so you'll have a chance to read it for the next one too.
Okay. Next.
T4.
All right. So, as you all may remember, or those who weren't here, just a brief history. When we initially were reviewing the T5, or now we call Village Corridor District, there was another district at the same time that was proposed changes, and that's what we call T4 at the moment. The planning board at the time decided it's better to separate the two and do a review of, the Village Corridor than this new zoning district that was developed, a recommended zoning district, benignly called now T4, which may change. So we're just picking up that discussion, and what I did was just I took the approach that the planning board did in developing the Village Corridor District, and I kind of, with just my knowledge of town right now, topography, density, transportation networks, infrastructure, I created sub-districts. Not recommended, but just proposed. If we were going to create sub-districts in this T4 district, what would that look like? So if you turn from, so this just gives you kind of a general idea of transect. So it's basically, your most dense zoning is going to be in the middle, and then as you go further and further out, it gets less and less dense. So this is just a conceptual of what that looks like. And then if you turn to this page, which is,
Flip that first page over.
yeah.
Yeah, the backside.
These are, not proposed, but a conceptual delineation of what some sub-districts could look like. And to me, these are distinct areas of town. So this T4 is kind of a catch-all, but I think within the T4, there's distinct areas that need to be addressed differently. For instance, along Damon Bay Road, those have challenges there. But as you get closer to town, along Lamprey Street between Damon Bay, those have different challenges, and they have some other opportunities. So my idea for this whole discussion is just to have, identify what would the delineation look like if we were to create sub-districts? Where would they be? And, disregarding, any zoning language, like, proposed standards, we just want to, identify districts, sub-districts. So that's what this exercise is. Yeah.
What did you, just out of curiosity, what did you use as a delineation between the sub-districts? Is it just geography? Is it architecture?
It's geography, it's infrastructure, it's topography, it's hydrology, it's so a bunch of different things.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I was just
Yeah.
curious as to what the
I feel,
demarcation points were.
yeah. So we'll just start with Lamprey. So basically, we'll start with the pink one. So Bay, Lamprey, and Dave. So the BLD one. So I picked that area because it's as you're entering that point in time. Say if you're coming from Bay Road, you're coming from more rural area into the urban core, and that's where infrastructure picks up. You got your sidewalks there, you got your water and sewer there at that point, and then it just the existing pattern is more urban. So there's more density there already. That's what exists. So the idea is like that area, but as you go north on Lamprey Street, it does get a little dense towards Bay Road. Dame Road. But your buttress be with the new Village Corridor District as well. So my whole thought is, this would be the separation of the most dense. This would be the logical conclusion to become less dense, but it has a little more density involved because it already exists.
Yeah, that's an interesting neighborhood there.
Yeah,
Most people aren't aware of it. Drive through there, it's different.
Right. So it has a different feel.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the idea too. Is we don't want to necessarily blow up neighborhoods. We want to integrate. If we are going to make any changes, it's just more, do we make tweaks and what those tweaks are. So I found this as a distinct area of town.
So what would you think the differences between these sub-districts would be? Is it
I think it's just
going to be different density?
Yeah, I think it's density.
Density's allowed?
Use, more density than use, I'd say.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, well, it would be use too, because as you get further and further out,
Sure.
you want the uses to be less intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think of like some of those are literally one lot away from the main thoroughfare.
Right.
There really is a lot of separation when you think of like a commercial application versus some of these that are, like the greens are kind of a little bit away and are definitely very residential. It's really, as of now, not much mixed use that I've seen in those areas.
And then, I guess, if we just go, say, Elm and 108 or Main Street, as you're going towards Nichols there. So, again, my thought process there is in that dark blue area we call Elm Nichols Spring that's kind of a dense area, and, so it already has existing patterns of density. But as you go up Nichols, it changes. So the question is, do we want to preserve that pattern that exists in the yellow there on what we call it Nichols upon Lamprey? And
English now?
yeah, I know I got a little got Creole Creek to it. Yeah, so and then so again, you got your urban Village Corridor, and then you get a little, and then I just feel they're just different. And maybe there's opportunities to change or provide different standards within those areas.
What's that big parcel? No, is that the ball field?
That's the ball field, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So
Yes, yeah. So I
Just on that, I was thinking it would be helpful to sort of hatch out on a little on
okay.
like the ball field, the Heron's Point.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it's a good idea, but
Yeah,
it's interesting.
we're going to start looking at rezoning a lot of these other areas, especially if we decide to lump some neighborhoods, because I know we had the whole, well, I guess the VC kind of came late with that. Didn't seem like there was much discussion on what was in or out. Although I think earlier this year, didn't we have a brief discussion about the wider
Yes,
rezoning, and then we kind of focused on just that corridor?
yes.
Yes.
Was that like April, May?
Yep.
But yeah, if we're gonna revisit that, because obviously these are pretty distinct from each other, and so depending on how the zoning ordinances get changed, like the light, I don't know what you call that, the grayish blue on the right side,
Yeah.
very different from
Yes.
even the pink next to it.
I thought that was taken out of that corridor. That's
Yes.
the area you had concerns about, right?
Which one?
Yeah, so this is existing VC.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, right? At one point, we were talking about considering that in the VC
Oh, yeah,
early on.
Yep.
Yeah, so the gray is
That's
what
right.
the existing zoning district
Yep.
as it is.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, like New Village varies extremely in density.
Yes.
And you got lots of apartment buildings and mixed with
Floodplains.
duplexes.
And floodplains.
What's that?
And floodplains. In the top.
That could almost be split into two districts,
Mm-hmm.
because the front half of that is the old buildings, the duplexes and triplexes and
Mhm.
quadplexes, then out behind it is all the big,
Okay. Would you say that cutoff would it be like
Condos
Cedar Street right there?
yeah, I'm not saying to do
Yeah.
that, I'm just.
I know, but just.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd be able to do it without mixing condos with duplexes or even single families unless we carve out just the lots that have not
Right,
condos
no,
or apartment
right,
buildings.
no, right, right.
Because they're so intermixed over there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the districting is kind of a blunt implement as it is. You're always going to get one or two lots that maybe don't quite.
Yeah.
You're doing your
Oh,
best
absolutely.
guess to kind of blend them all together in under one. But
Yeah, we'll take the condos out of it, you know, because those are never gonna change.
Mhm. Yeah, we could.
50 years, they might tear them down and build something else.
Build more.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I was thinking about all the lots on Nichols. It's like buy 6 lots, tear down 6 houses, build condos.
That's gonna be tricky up there because you're in a floodplain. In some of those lots. So.
Half of
Oh,
them,
down the
yeah,
end of the
yeah.
street.
Yeah.
Yeah, at
By
least
Piscasset.
Down, yeah.
Yeah.
The houses, I think, are up out of it, but
Yeah,
the
But
lot
not
of the
the
land
not the
down below.
multifamilies. Yeah.
Well, they're actually interested in old houses.
Yeah. So again, it's just those neighborhood characteristics, like I said, proximity to natural resources, infrastructure, and also, I was gonna say topography. So that was just my first pass at it. So I guess what I would like for you all to consider is what would that look like? What would a sub-district look like? Or should it be even considered in the T4? So.
I feel like similar to the vein of VC, where we put a lot of emphasis on mixed use and kind of adding some commercial elements to that through way.
Mhm.
I could see sub-districts being advantageous to identify those that could kind of marry to some of those same things, but while leaving
Yep.
the ones that probably aren't really benefiting from that anyways, like some of these districts that are farther away from your main
Mhm.
thoroughfares. So for that reason, I could see having these distincted, especially along the Main Street area, kind of delineated, is helpful.
I think it's too complex.
Not to administer.
Too complex.
Too complex?
Yeah, it's like so many districts in such a small area.
I think the way we're going, not necessarily because, what we would do is we're just regulating the building types at that point that would exist in here. And then the uses, how much, if we're going to do a form-based code, it would be more of the building type in its relationship to the area. So I don't think it would be as complicated. It wasn't as complicated for the VC. The VC district is it's more homogeneous, so I think it was easier to provide a suite of options. The question is, these are very distinct neighborhoods, and they change quickly, in my opinion. So
When you say quickly, what do you mean quickly?
the character changes.
Lot to lot.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Lot to
so we-
lot,
Street
neighborhood
to
to
street.
neighborhood.
Okay,
So that's what I mean, changes quickly.
I mean, just the red district up on the hill.
Like, for instance, Jane Bayou, Lamprey Street, and you just go down the road like 100 feet, boom,
Yep.
It changed, so.
Yep, it is
In the Wade
totally-
Farm,
yep.
so, it changes. So the question is, where are those districts, and if where the sub-districts are, and, what type of zoning do we want to propose for those that are appropriate?
Do you want to keep them distinct, or do you want them to homogenize?
I
Yeah,
personally
right,
feel
exactly.
like you'd have to homogenize some of that, at least near downtown, and knowing that there's probably gonna be
It could
lots
be.
in parts of those that
So
they're just
maybe
not gonna
like,
leverage
Yeah.
for that reason.
It could be like the yellow and blue merge along Elm Street there. And, I think Spring Street and Zion Hill, that's distinct up there, by the Stone Church. That whole neighborhood there. And then same thing with the corridor B Street extension. You can make an argument there. So, again, that was just my first pass, and I'd just love to have your opinion. Where are those changes? So, is this even a direction you want to go in? And if not, then we can just recalibrate and, take a different approach.
Well, on the surface of it, I don't have a problem with it. Devil's always in the details, and
Sure.
to Jeff's point, we don't want to make it so it's unyieldy.
25
For
neighbors
everybody.
seeing their neighbors do something they can't do.
Right.
Or 50 or 100 neighbors seeing their neighbors do something they can't. You know what I mean? Because that's what I'm saying, there's so many districts.
Yeah.
So you have so many lots with opposing, so many of them. And I don't know that it's bad or wrong or anything like that. I just haven't really thought about that.
I have a suggestion for this next month. Maybe just go around the neighborhoods, drive around, walk around,
Bike around.
bike around, segue around.
Drive around.
So the bus, but just look at the neighborhood, see what the changes. Where is it? Where are those cutoffs? Where does things change?
It's interesting, because Nichols Ave is certainly its own little
Yeah.
neighborhood. That is a unique
Yeah.
little neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's the one that, and I'm familiar with Elm Street, and everything, but Nichols Ave is very distinctive. It's got all those duplexes that were built.
Yep.
Shoot people.
Just the different development periods, mill buildings
Yeah.
and all the
Oh,
worker
absolutely.
housing, different phases to.
Yep, yep. Like the front half of New Village is the same way. All those,
Yep.
very, very distinctive.
But do they require different zoning?
Oh, I don't know that they do. I just know they're
Yeah.
very, very distinctive neighborhoods.
I look at this, I think it's way too detailed. I just can't imagine why each one of these colors requires a different zoning.
Well, it's not more. It's more building types you want there. So it's like, how do you match the existing patterns that are there, or if you want to match them, or how do you want them to change? So the zoning in general is not gonna be significantly different. It's where it's gonna be different is the type of buildings you allow there.
So is the goal, because that's what I was trying to think of, like the goal, like you don't do it for fun, right? You do it
Right.
for the people that live there,
Right.
presumably, and for the future people that live there, and to benefit them in some way.
Correct.
To make something better for the whole town as a whole as well, right? So is the goal to like say, well, if we do this type of zoning blanket across here and say you can build a 6-unit, well, everything's 1 units in this area. We don't want somebody chucking a 6-unit in right now. Everything in this area is 1 to 3 units. So if we kind of keep to 4 units, it would kind of slow the pace of change and not be
Right.
abrupt to certain people that live there, like
Or
like
it could
what-
be a place where it's 4
Do you
units
want
or
to-
6 units, it's not, a appropriate use, so you limit it to 4.
right.
So how do you do that, in a, in a easy way? And the only way I can think of right now is, creating these little sub-districts. Because if you have it homogenized in one district, then how do you communicate where, oh, you can't have it here, in this part of town, in this district, but you can do it over here. If,
You don't, you allow it everywhere.
yeah,
Or don't allow it everywhere.
right, or that too, or you don't allow it at all.
So we did those workshops at one point where we asked people like what kind of, in your neighborhood, what
Right.
style, form, could you see working? Do we have anything like that coming up to where we could help people identify, like, I think we did something similar where it's like, hey, what's your how do you define your neighborhood, or what's your
Yeah,
area?
so there is an online survey right now. It's a good segue. That's on the town website. It's for the whole town, but it identifies your neighborhood and it goes through that process.
Because I'd love to see how that, because I would be surprised if there was a huge difference, because I do think it's pretty obvious when you walk through those neighborhoods, but I'd like to see some of that maybe overlay if
And-
we're on the mark.
Yep, and then also what we're doing is we're gonna do some more community outreach on, based on the existing information that we've gotten from the community. We're gonna go back to them and say, hey, this is what we heard. Are we on base? Are we off base? And kind of calibrate there, the type of building types that people are comfortable with. So we try to reach out as much people as possible.
Yeah, I guess the other thing I'd be curious is, because ultimately if you're changing the zoning for the area, I think it's been brought up, but it's because you're wanting to add options for density, so you can now have 4 or 6, or maybe you want to be more restrictive on that, or you want to add mixed use being a easier to go route? How do people in these neighborhoods, do they see it as, oh, I think we could turn this 2-unit house to a 4-unit house, or is it, hey, I'd like to see more business in the area? Because some of this could feed off of the VC district.
Yeah.
Incorporate that direction, whereas others, it's preserving basically kind of the more residential feel, but still adding density, if
Right.
they think that makes
Exactly.
sense.
So the idea is to understand if the zoning is working for as much consensus. Is the zoning working? Is it meeting people's expectations? And if it isn't, are there adjustments? What those adjustments are? Part of this is exactly to allow for more opportunity to use property, and try to solve challenges. And then also, again, it's going back to what we had in that last chapter too, is where does development make sense, and where does preservation, and where can they be interwoven?
Yeah, because I feel like in the Beach Street extension, Elm Street kind of triangle, that makes sense if you're to incorporate any kind of mixed-use application, but you get up onto like Zion Hill, it's pretty windy up in there, but there may be a use case there that we can allow, I just don't know. I feel like it's very jam-packed and kind of,
Yeah, you have
a
some.
lot of,
You have some
a
examples.
lot of different styles up
Yeah,
there too, that,
exactly.
I don't think you're gonna find one style that
Neighborhood
fits all.
bars.
We had two,
Yeah.
mixed uses up there.
Oh, well,
for
of
a
course.
while.
Polish clubs,
We
yeah.
got L&M
That's right.
on the corner of Beach Street Extension and Elm,
Yep.
and then we got Stone Church. So
Polish
had a
clubs
bike
up
shop.
and then
there.
Polish Club. Yep,
We had the bike shop
Yeah.
there briefly,
that's right. We did.
which was a mixed use,
It was a good effort.
wasn't it?
So, yeah.
Okay.
It's-
I think it's worth
Yeah.
pursuing.
It's worth
feel
thinking
like
about.
the developed properties are a little more straightforward in terms of visualizing how things could change and matching it. It's the undeveloped properties, mainly, with a Dane, it's a little harder to visualize how those would be developed and how that merges what's already there to Garnet Drive and Boulder.
Yeah. So part of this next round of developer recommendations is updating some standards. So it would be updating the open space subdivision standards, and also we're gonna introduce a recommendation where if you develop over a certain amount of acreage, you have this new kind of master plan type development. We won't call it PUD, but it's more thought needs to be put into it. Put it that way.
I mean, I think I would like to see something similar for areas like this, like where we're gonna go into this pretty dense area and maybe say, potentially like, there's a bunch of single-family homes here, but we're gonna allow people to put X number, up to like 6 units or something like that here, through the zoning, the capacity of the neighborhood to facilitate the traffic, what's the build out, I think we tried to get this for the village quarter, what's the build out potential in these areas, and are the streets and can the infrastructure facilitate that many
I feel
more
like
residents?
If you allow existing structures to subdivide into more units, I feel like that's pretty easy to absorb versus like allowing something where you can go take a 2-unit building, tear it down and build a 6-unit building.
Or like what they did over here, they took a vacant lot
and added 40 units or whatever, right? Like, I think we talked about this at that time too,
Yep.
like, is the infrastructure there to handle
I guess
the
to your,
volume of traffic that. this
to your
may
point,
create?
where are the vacant lots? Because I feel like in a lot of those areas in the Zion Hill and all that, I don't know of too many vacant lots that would even be
No,
potential
but
for
you can
that.
easily make them vacant.
Yep.
With a bulldozer.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
So you're talking about redevelopment?
Well, the,
Yeah.
well, the
Yeah.
redevelopment, the issue with the redevelopment in a lot of the places is that, again, if somebody has an 8 or 10 unit apartment building there that they're renting out, they're not gonna tear it down to put up another 8 or 10 building. You know what I mean? If
No,
there's
unless
not
it's
a-
old,
if
unless
there's-
it's dilapidated.
But I mean, that-
Come
But-
down
but-
over time.
Yeah, there's gotta be an economic reason.
Yeah.
I guess that's the point.
It's
is-
increase in density that makes it
Right.
most of them economically feasible if we get there.
Right. And if they do that,
Then
can
what's-
Elm Street handle it?
Yeah, I
Right.
think
Are
some
we-
of those districts will have to restrict that back probably, to your point. But I have to imagine there's a lot of buildings that are underutilized in their space that you could subdivide it down into. Maybe it's a larger,
I agree.
single-family home that you could make into 2 or, even based on the site planning rules, right? It'd be pretty easy to add 3,
Yeah.
no more than 3.
My wife, when she was growing up, lived on the hill right here, the big house next to the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
One house. It's been, what, 8 condos for 20 years. They subdivided that one house into 8 or 10 condos.
Okay.
That's it, yeah, so like is the goal to facilitate the increase in like to encourage an increase in density? Is it to give people options? Is it to control the building types that are going in there?
I
Like,
think
it's all the above.
all the above, because this is your urban core,
Right.
if you will. You make an argument that the Bay Dame Road isn't, but I'm just saying, let's say New Village area, Hill, west of the river. It's kind of your urban core. All right, so if our master plan is guiding us towards, all right, you have this area that's already developed, we want to do more preservation, let's utilize this area, but do it in a controlled manner.
I think is interesting is that I think for maybe like 400 years we didn't really have zoning, right?
Yep.
In Newmarket, and it developed into what we see.
Yeah.
And now we're going to use zoning to preserve what developed organically over 400
Yeah.
years and not let it develop organically 400 years
Yeah.
into the future.
Time's crazy.
Well, it's the control. Progress is in control.
There's one city in the country that still has no zoning.
Like,
I'm not saying we shouldn't have
Houston,
none, but
Texas.
it feels like so
Still has
That's
no
right.
zoning.
intense to break it. So
Yeah. But honestly, to get any kind of redevelopment, the only way we, as a town, could spur on any redevelopment is to allow an increase in density. Because otherwise, it's just not economically feasible for people to do stuff.
Well, or it's restricted by current.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what I mean, it's restricted.
Correct.
So we're talking about kind
Correct.
of loosening back to what it
No,
used to
correct.
be more 400 years ago, which is less rules, not no rules, less rules.
Almost.
Yeah, I think,
Right.
yeah, definitely as we revisit that, I think that's what we need to do is kind of identify what's our goals in this area. I think there might be some common areas that we can kind of lump together, and whether it's increased density or incorporate more mixed use in that area.
Yeah, and that's kind of the purpose of the T4 district, is to allow more density, but not as dense as the village corridor, and allow for more smaller commercial opportunities, which already exist in some of these areas already. I'm thinking the convenience store, I'm thinking Stone Church, along Beach Street Extension, you got businesses there. Then, and I'm not sure about Lamprey Street, I don't think there's anything there, but, again, you got South Main Street as well. You got some there. So anyways, that was, again, my first pass. I think for, next meeting is just a continuing discussion on, like you said, Zach, what are our goals? Where do we want those redevelopment opportunities? Where do we want the density? And where do we want different standards within this whole area? And, So I guess just a temperature check. Do people like the sub-district? You know, not, maybe it's not as many, but do you think that's a good approach?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with it, I just,
Yeah.
I mean, I have to, this is probably too many, because it's probably unmanageable, but I think
Yeah.
in general, the idea is fine. Have you been approached at all by anybody about the new state zoning stuff, about residential and commercial zones and stuff? No?
No.
Nobody in town's approached?
No,
you?
because we don't really have any areas with water and sewer that, well, we do, but like.
Downtown.
Not downtown, but, I'm thinking of that area of town. No, I haven't been approached by anyone. Yeah.
So yeah, take it back, kind of mull it over.
I
Kind
just
of take our
realized
comments in.
our lawyers, the town lawyers, for some reason, they have a guy who's put together a presentation on all the new regulations that they've recently passed. And I've talked to Val about it, and they're gonna make a presentation to us.
Oh, good.
Yeah, to update us on all this stuff. Because they've made a lot of changes in the last.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
To the planning board?
What?
To the planning board or the town council?
Well, originally it was gonna be the planning board, but the town council said they wanted to hear it too, so it might be a joint meeting.
Yeah, stay true to that. But yeah, there are some, like in our ADU ordinances, there's some things that are unenforceable now.
Right.
So we'll have to make changes to that.
How's that gone? Has there been a lot of
Yeah, there's been a
people
few.
intrigued by it?
Yep, I think we have a few already built since we passed it. There's definitely a lot of interest. So it's starting to pick up.
I see a lot of it in my business.
Yeah.
In other towns, a lot of people begin to do ADUs.
There's a lot of talk about it.
Well, people can't afford to
Right.
go to Rye.
Yeah.
Kid can't afford to live in Rye, all we do is do an ADU.
I keep seeing these things from Amazon where you can get a whole house for $20,000. I don't know if that's real or.
Well, tiny home, tow behind a car, is that what you're talking about?
I tell you
No,
what,
no, these are
I
like
tell you what,
kits.
I'll meet you tomorrow, give me a briefcase full of $20,000 cash, I'll get you one.
Just one last thing.
Okay.
Yeah, the next item.
Yep. Yeah, discussion relative to drafting amendments to the zoning code to incorporate a solar ordinance.
Yeah, so this past few months, we've been working with a nonprofit, it's called SoulSmart. They help municipalities do kind of encourage them to look at their regulations and make sure that there's not a lot of barriers to build solar. So the idea for this is, if the board has any appetite, is to, for us staff to kind of look at some model ordinances. So we did a digest of our ordinance, and it's not explicitly permitted. We permit it as an accessory use. So, so what you see in town is, like roof-mounted solar or maybe a ground-mounted solar, but it's not the primary use of the lot. It's just an accessory to the primary use. So the idea is to maybe look at that and kind of codify the uses more, and then develop some performance standards as well. And then have the question is, do we want something larger? Because solar fields are not, or solar as a primary use is not permitted in town.
So what came up years ago, that someone was trying to do a solar project, it was a residential development. A lot of the solar companies, they'll put the panels on and lease you back the panels.
Yep.
And it was determined at that point that we couldn't allow it because that's a commercial use. And you can't have a commercial use in a residential zone.
Yeah.
So just think about that, because those are the types of hurdles you'll.
People do that all over the place.
Yeah.
don't
Oh, they do, but.
Like probably 100 houses in this town.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah.
Nobody
anyways.
ever asked the question, but in this case, the question came up and it was, you can't do it.
That was draft model language, I think.
Yeah, they have draft model language, and so we could, take a look at that, and, if the board would like, we can eventually, in a month or two, we can just look at it, and, kind of understand if that's something we'll move forward with.
So you're talking about a also for a commercial, so
Yeah,
something
so
take 100 acres and do a solar farm.
that's the question, do we want that?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think it's
Yeah.
similar to like the soil well project that
Yeah.
they were looking at, but instead of the town owning it, it was an individual doing essentially the same thing.
And then what size do we want, you know, if it is a solar field like that? You know, do we want it under a certain acreage, or do we, you know, again,
Percentage of lot coverage or something.
what's that? Yeah, lot
Percentage of
coverage,
lot
yeah,
coverage.
percentage of lot coverage, exactly. And then, other elements, you know, if it were to be a solar field, you know, what do you want to support it? You know, landscaping, you know, appropriate landscaping, you know, appropriate stormwater, so anyways. The idea is to have a set of standards that, that are clear and everyone understands. And I think, and then do we want to, allow for those types of uses? More so than we already have in town, so.
I thought you were also going to include encouraging the use of it on new buildings as well.
Oh, we do through our ADU ordinance.
Subdivision.
In subdivision, yeah, so,
No, he's talking about generating electricity to sell to Eversource.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking too, like if you do a 10-lot subdivision,
Right.
the 9th lot is purely dedicated to generation of
Correct.
solar power, and that gives you the 10th lot, you know what I mean, or whatever.
Yeah.
So you get an extra lot if one lot's dedicated.
Yeah, I'm not sure a commercial makes sense. If that Sewell project, it's got a 20-year payback. Assuming free rent of the soil, the town pays all the maintenance costs and everything on it, that doesn't, go in, none of that stuff goes in. And then at the end, and you have a 20-year life on the panels. So, so if you get a hailstorm in 20 years, you're screwed, right? I mean,
And there's a big problem with the life expectancy, like you said, 20 years. Those are highly toxic. And then how do you get rid of them?
yeah.
Where do you get rid of them?
But I mean, you
Yeah.
put it on your house where you're replacing the meter, it's like a 4 or 5 year payment.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody's
6 or
gonna
8,
put
6 or
money
8.
into a 20-year payback.
Yeah, I think as the town goes, I was gonna talk about it in my committee report, but yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen, but again, this is just allowing that use. If there's a different,
Yeah.
if it makes sense 2 years down the road,
But the town
or.
can do it even if it's not zoned.
I think the financing is a different question than allowing, do we want it as a use?
Yeah, I kind of treat it as other not industrial uses, because I don't think the panels don't, I get the waste side of it, but they're not actively like, you're not burning things
Yeah.
into the air, it's not that kind of
Yeah.
industrial. But it is essentially a large scale commercial operation akin to like other large buildings or warehousing, or farm.
I don't know why we wouldn't allow it as a use.
Yeah,
Whether
I'm
it's
just
economically
saying-
feasible or
I'm just
not
saying no
at
one's
this
gonna
point is
ask
another
us.
question.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, the 20-year payback is what did you not do for 20 years? Not.
Yeah, if
it
your
take
land is
20 years
just
to pay it
sitting
back.
vacant, generating something off of that land versus it just.
Right, for 20 years, we didn't burn fossil.
What would be the benefit to the
We
people in
didn't
the
make or
town?
lose any money, but we
Is
just.
our electricity gonna be
Wait a minute.
cheaper?
So you think
No, it's-
that you as a taxpayer should put money into this 20-year payback thing? That at the end of 20 years, you have to then pay to get a land?
So I
think
think
it's a
that's
separate question.
getting off
Yeah.
topic, right?
Yeah.
So this is individual use. It wouldn't be, this is just allowing an individual on their property to use that property in this manner. It wouldn't necessarily
Okay.
be a
Yeah.
thing that the town has any, other than the
review.
aspect of the review and the site plans and
Mm.
all that, but. No, it's the, if you want to put a business on your property, right, if you're zoned to do that, you're zoned to do that. One of
Mm.
those businesses could be solar.
so,
Would you have model language you would even want to present to us at next meeting, or is this just
it'd
something
be
that you're
like 2
looking at?
meetings prior from now, yeah, we have something,
Okay.
Salisbury has language, but.
yeah, sure. A lot of people do.
30 municipalities, apparently,
Yeah.
in New Hampshire. Okay. Any other comments, discussions? All right.
I just appreciate you getting this out on Friday so that we have the weekend to.
Yeah, sorry for the last
It's
time,
okay.
it was majorly, so I apologize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
They let you out of the office?
Huh?
So moving on to new old business. So committee reports. Guess we can start on the left. Scott, you have anything from town council?
Yeah, so those of you who've been following the Jeffrey Clay thing, Jeffrey Clay lost, as you remember, in the court, and then he appealed it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court just threw him out. And so, and he can't take it to the federal Supreme Court because there's no federal laws involved. Now, whether we'll ever collect any money on that is all another story. But, Colin White resigned from the town council and has been replaced by Chase Eagleson, who actually had run for a seat in the last election. The state, we have a firewall system on our computers here, but the state has a different firewall system, and so they made us go buy the state firewall system, so we're compatible with the state. We have increased the disability veterans tax credit to the maximum allowed. It's like 10 people. We recently bought a vacuum truck, those trucks that go around and suck all the drains, We completed step one of the septage. We have the septage on Crichton, and everybody down there is complaining about it. So we're building a facility in the actual main, sewer plant where the trucks can come in there and they don't go into the Crichton facility. So we have that first station set up, which is going to allow us to eliminate the Crichton. It doesn't eliminate Crichton, but it takes most of the traffic away from it. We have we approved a contract to go look at pumping. We're having a problem. We have some houses that are pretty close to our water tower, and so we can't draw our water tower down as far as you'd like and still maintain pressure. So we're looking at putting some pumping stations in to do that. And we're also, over the next maybe 4 or 5 years, we're going to put up a second water tower. And then we're doing MS4 studies, we're doing outfall studies, so we're going around. We have to go around and look at everything in the dry season, which is, until yesterday or a couple days ago, we were in severe dry season, right? So we've been going around testing it all in the dry season, then we have to test it in the wet season. On Shanda Park, there's a property that is for sale that goes between Shanda Park and where the DPW gate is there, right?
Treatment plant, yeah.
And so the town's looking to see whether it would be possible to at least buy the waterfront part of that, so Shanda Park went all the way across. But that's very preliminary. That's it.
Thank you. Can't remember if you guys were on any committee assignments.
Let's see if Peter James is maybe.
Yeah, it's the,
Oh, I won't steal our thunder.
yeah, no, the CIP. So we had our first meeting yesterday. We're having our second follow-up meeting tomorrow, and we heard some of the things you were talking about, like some of the efforts. The department heads were great, came in, answered all of our questions, and we'll go and we'll do the second half of that tomorrow.
Awesome. Okay. I think Jeff, conservation.
Yeah, last month, we were supposed to do a site walk at the Rosa property, but it got canceled because it was super hot and thunderstorms, I think is what was going on. And so we didn't even have a meeting last month, so we did not meet last month.
Okay.
And I don't think we rescheduled that. I didn't get a notice that was rescheduled.
No, we're probably talking about it tomorrow, or Thursday.
Alrighty, I went to Energy and Environment a couple weeks ago. So Sewell Solar Project. So they did get an interconnect application approval from Eversource. That's good for a year. Unfortunately, they didn't get funding through one of the, I don't know if it was a grant or something through the state, but they weren't prioritized for that, so that funding stream is not available, which kind of puts into question whether the project is viable, because they don't currently have funding for it, even though they got the interconnect. So doesn't help that all the credits and things are going away at the end of the month, so though they can always reevaluate that later if funding opportunities come up and try to push that project, but that one is not looking likely at this point. Let's see, Soul Smart, you already talked about that. And yeah, just for the master plan, I think we talked a lot about how we can kind of prioritize during renovations for the town specifically, adding solar. I know the Department of Public Works is the fire station that has the solar. Fire station. So through either CIP or I know the master plan already talks to it, but trying to kind of prioritize as new updates, major renovations to roofs, other buildings come up, trying to look at that as an option to add in then in the process. So that's kind of the other thing we talked about.
Yeah, because that power then goes directly to the fire station.
Yeah, and that makes more sense from recouping costs, saving money that way.
So distribution, transmission fees.
Yep. So that was a big thing, kind of pushing that. And they talked about recycling campaigns.
How's the community power thing going?
We did talk about that. I didn't write it down, so I'm going off of memory. They just had, I think we saw it in the mail, something about the price for the next period, which will be higher than Eversource's default rate, but I think it's just the way that they line up in the cycles, that more than likely next billing cycle those will come back closer to alignment. Because for a while we were below, if I remember correctly. Now we'll be above. So I think that just is kind of dependent on how the cycles get evaluated, kind of staggered from them, but I didn't really talk much more beyond that. I mean, it's not something that I'm aware that the town can directly control, but they did say it'll be interesting to see how many people switch after that. So some people.
Electric rates have gone way up.
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy, crazy.
Can you switch back and forth anytime and as often as you want?
Yeah,
Is there a fee?
As long as you're not contracted.
I'm not sure. I know that you definitely can. When they first sent out the community power letters, I remember reading into it, and you can select even within that, like whether you wanted 100% clean as your generation or the default. But yeah, I'm not sure what the limit is.
They need a classification cheaper. I think they'll get a big turnout if they get that.
So yeah, seems like it's doing well as a program, but yeah, we'll see how with the rates being currently higher than Resources default, we'll see how many people change or if it just kind of is consistent. But yeah, that was it. Any other committee reports? All right, planners report.
Yeah, so as Jane said, we started a CIP process. We heard from DPW, water and sewer, and then fire, and then we'll hear from the rest, which is recreation, police department, library, school district, and I'm forgetting one. So that's good. We should wrap that up this week. And then, meanwhile, we're working on three more chapters of the master plan, finalizing those drafts. It'll be the recreation chapter, community facilities, and land use. We're gonna have actually a land use meeting on Thursday, so kind of help develop that chapter a little more. Future land use. Riverfront Advisory Committee, they made some recommendations, town council, to create a coastal resiliency incentive zone. So kind of works like a 79E, if people are familiar with that, which is a community revitalization zone. It follows the same standards for the community revitalization zone, but has more of an environmental hue to it. So if you make any certain improvements to your lot, if you're within this zone, qualifying improvements over a certain threshold, dollar threshold, you can apply to the town council for basically a property tax abatement for a certain amount of years to try to offset some of those costs. So the idea is to allow folks to make improvements that make their properties more resilient and adaptable to changes, climate changes and weather changes. So anyways, they recommended that to the town council and also establishing a capital reserve fund for the downtown riverfront to help save for future improvements. Since we have a riverfront chapter, or a draft one, which most likely be adopted by you all, hopefully. To complement that is to develop a capital reserve fund to help save for those improvements. So that was recommended. So in October, the town council will get the first and second reading, and let's see what else I got. Transportation Advisory Committee, they're going to hear a presentation on the draft recommendations for the parking study that was done by Stratford Regional Planning Commission. So that'll be tomorrow. So just reviewing those recommendations and then finalizing them and then sending them to council for their consideration. In addition, we're doing this initiative with them. The Transportation Advisory Committee is going like neighborhood by neighborhood to understand, transportation issues. So we're starting with New Village right now, and this is kind of like our test case, our inaugural community event. So the idea is to go to the community, the neighborhood, have kind of a little block party, and do some basically ask questions on what are issues that the neighborhood has, from a transportation aspect, and also general. We'll take other grievances as well. But the idea is to, there'll be two things. One, hearing from them, eating food, having fun. But also, we're going to have some mapping exercises, for people to engage in, to really help us understand what are some, issues, issues within the neighborhood. So the idea is just to, understand what they are, and is there anything that the town can do to help alleviate those. So that's kind of our first foray into this kind of, neighborhood community planning efforts. So, and then we'll learn from that and go to the next neighborhood. So,
Got one word for that one.
Yeah.
Signage.
Signage, yes, and speed. Yeah.
Start with the signage.
Yeah. That's what we've been hearing for the past, a lot of signage improvements we need. I agree. And then, that's all I got. And then, kind of similar vein, for the HOP grant that we received, we're going to be doing additional outreach soon. So we're going to be going to different neighborhoods within town, and kind of what we did at the mill space in downtown. We're just going to kind of report what we heard and see if we're on base for like any type of zoning changes or whatnot. So that's all I have.
Can't remember, when you say neighborhood, you mean like rural parts of town too, right?
Yeah, so the idea, if like we're going western Newmarket, maybe we meet at Wigan Farm parking lot and present there, or some conservation, some area, just to set up a table and have some food, kind of do a presentation and just discuss what we have. So the idea is not to go to folks and not have them come to us. We go to them and kind of make it more of a collaborative effort. So.
You heard anything more from the developers on proposed new roads?
Oh yes, they will probably be submitting for next meeting. So that's what they intend. So the October meeting might be the application acceptance. They'll be filing for review.
What's going on with that bridge?
Which bridge?
Railroad bridge.
Railroad bridge.
On the
Where,
road?
Swampscott? Like,
Yeah. It's like one lane.
It's down to one lane.
It was always kind of one, but it's
Yeah,
been
but
partially
it's
blocked for a long
blocked
time.
up.
Like a month.
where? Next to the
By
next
Muddy
to-
River.
Oh, there?
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that's like
In the junction?
horribly under capacity.
They're probably making improvements there. I don't know. I mean, they've been going up and down the line, making improvements.
Well, yeah, a lot of that was because the bridge burned.
Well, not the Portsmouth route, but north-south, not east.
Yeah, the east one's the one we're talking about.
Oh, okay, I don't
The
know.
one, the new road bridge,
Okay.
that's a little wooden one.
Okay.
It's been partially closed for, I don't know, maybe
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, because they hit it, so,
some, oh, the train people.
yeah. That's my understanding.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, they hit underneath it,
That would make
It's
sense.
good if
Yeah.
they have to fix it, because they give people such a hard time fixing those things.
yeah.
And the
I
height-
believe,
the height and all that stuff.
I think it was when they were doing the repairs, or going to do the repairs of the one crossing the river, they hit it.
Isn't
Because they-
DOT supposed to replace the 108 bridge?
That has been pushed back.
Oh, I heard that was coming up relatively soon.
There's a lot of funding that's gone. So a lot of the 10-year
Federal
plans are
bridge.
being pushed back.
Like Federal Bridge. Federal
Yeah,
Highway.
yeah. So, and also there's some state funding issues.
Yeah.
They borrowed a lot.
Ton of money to spend.
Yeah.
Federal highway spend a
Yeah.
ton of money. It's,
Yeah.
everything is so expensive.
Yeah. So, yeah, the 108 bridge, going to Newfields, that's been pushed back.
Does the bridge, I don't mean to I don't know if we can think about something that's coming to us, but does that bridge come into consideration when we consider projects on New Road, like the access, like the?
I feel like we
New Road
talked
itself?
about it 2 meetings ago.
It was a
when it
regional
first came
impact.
out.
I think like the wooden bridge you're talking about, or the 108
The
bridge?
wooden bridge and the
Yeah.
access to the lot that we're gonna consider.
I think so.
Next month.
Absolutely. I mean, my opinion.
I know, I remember when
It's
they were
in a
thinking
different
of doing
town, but
something
still.
down, it was, like, traffic on New Road was a big discussion, so I was kind of.
That was either the council or the planning board, I don't know, 15 years ago when they tried to
That's-
get that bridge repaired for the town property.
Yeah.
When they won't, when they
Yeah, it's
wanted
in
to do something
Newfields.
else there.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And the railroad company.
I think it's a DOT bridge.
Remember when they
In
fixed the
Newfields.
bridge over to the self-storage place?
Mm.
Yeah.
That was a huge deal, and they had
Yeah.
to raise the bridge up.
Yep.
Because there's they need to maintain, like the new
Yeah.
regulation for the height of the bridge
Yeah.
above the rail is higher than the old regulation,
Yes.
so
Yeah,
they had
they
to
gotta-
like
They're gonna
raise
put
up.
double stack.
Yeah, so it's like a,
Oh, that's why it looks like that.
yeah.
One more question. Do you know the status of the top of Hersey Lane, the new duplexes, and there's another vacant lot that has stockpiles in it?
I have heard that it's being considered, it might be transferring ownership, I'm not sure. So, nothing's being proposed at the moment. Or,
Does that have vested?
that one, nothing is vested yet. But it has to mean stormwater and, current stormwater regs. So that's what happened with the Green Road project, with all those new duplexes. They had to come back to planning board to make sure that it met new stormwater regulations.
Just the stormwater?
Correct.
How is that? Why is
State law.
on stormwater?
Yeah, stormwater needs to be met to current standards.
I didn't know.
We're at
What about this, sorry,
No.
the building type or?
That's the. Yeah. So,
Zach, just for your technicality, for the meeting to go over 9 o'clock, you have to actually have a vote.
no, 10 o'clock.
It's 10.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
10.
It's 10,
Yeah.
We can vote to make it 9.
Yeah.
7:30.
I've had several other things and they're always 9.
So, yeah, so just circle back, my understanding is vested, but again, with the
I thought
further
it was 10 too.
investigation.
This
Yeah,
is a younger group.
I'm getting the sense that Jane's tasking is coming. Any other business?
Dying.
No. I make a motion that we adjourn.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Aye, yay.
Aye, aye.
All right.
Okay.
When is